Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight we have Coleman Luck and his son Cole Luck III tonight. They are the producers of Patterns of the Supernatural Phenomena. It's a YouTube channel I picked up doing my own research on a number of different topics, and they kept turning up in my searches. They come from a very Christian background. These men are men of definite faith in their in Christianity. But I have people on with lots of different perspectives on this show, be it Christian to Buddhist to spiritual to anything. Because I like to hear from all perspectives, and I'm really enjoying their channel, and you should definitely check it out. It's under Thorncrown Studios on YouTube, and they cover a lot of different topics. Now, I might not agree with them on every take that they have, but I don't agree with everybody I have on my show. That's just how it is. I have, but I'm open to hearing it. Because who the hell am I to know if anything's true? These guys are really, really something special. I am really honored to have them on the show tonight. They are really passionate about the research they do and the channel and the product they put together. When you guys see this channel, you'd be amazed. It's really good. You're going to get a lot of good information from their YouTube channel. You should definitely check it out, Thorncrown Studios. We're going to get into their topics tonight, what brought them here. Coleman Luck actually was a writer for the show Equalizer. I remember being a little kid and wanting to watch the show and be like, no, you can't watch that. It looked really cool. The guy was like beating people up and I don't know. It looked really cool. But yeah, that's just a side note to it because it really does matter. The real Thorncrown Studios, their YouTube channel, and Patterns of the Supernatural Phenomena is amazing. You guys are going to definitely check it out after this episode tonight. And of course, lots of weird in the World Wide Web of weird to get to, as well as your phone calls. Later in the show, we will open up the lines for you guys to call in. Lot to get to, so let's go ahead and get rolling into the show. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Tonight's guests, Coleman Luck and Cole Luck III. I will call the senior Coleman and the junior Cole to try to differentiate them now if I don't mix that up horribly. But I got to talk to these guys a few days ago. They're really super cool, really interesting. I can't wait to have them on tonight. But they will join us after the World Wide Web of Weird, after our first commercial break. It's Memorial Day. You know, Rob's in a band and doing stuff, so I didn't have hopes of him being here tonight. So hopefully he's doing well and enjoying himself playing out there. You know, he's a bass player, I think, mainly, and plays in a band. You should check it out. Saltones, something like that. Saltones? Yeah, you should check it out. But joining me, as always, is my beautiful co-host and co-host with Rob on Wednesday nights of the Weird Wednesday show, Jamie D. How you doing tonight, Jamie?
Doing well, thank you.
Glad to have you here on this Memorial Day weekend. You know, I get to hang out. I get to sleep in on a Monday, Jamie. I get to sleep in. That's why I'm like, yes,
every minute of it.
Coffee with no consequences tonight, because if you see me really down on this in a show, which I'm trying to stop myself most of the time at the beginning of the show because I know I'll be up all night and I have to get up at 6 in the morning. No, I don't. I can enjoy the coffee without the regret here in a few hours later. I still will, because part of the time I'm like, I just want to go to sleep. Damn coffee, why? All right, enough about me. We got a lot of weird to get to, so let's go ahead and roll into the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, I think I should start out with this since I recently gone through my own blackout period here, no power of the other week. But it seems like it's been happening a lot all over the world. You had the whole blackouts in Europe, lots of power outages, with weather, whatever. All these different things are saying. But now I'm seeing these articles like this one from the Daily Mail. NASA warns major solar storm set to cause blackouts on Earth. For those listening on the Paranormal Soup Radio Network, we are a webcast streaming out live to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. But if you want to listen, I will narrate as best as possible. All right, so I don't have Rob tonight. I'm trying out, I'm probably going to keep StreamYard. I keep threatening you StreamYard, but there's new features I discover. And, this has been here a while, and I just discovered, a way to share the screen without causing major problems. So, Article 1. And I can still see the chat while I talk to you. Isn't that nice? Here we go. NASA issued the warning at... Oh, dang, Daily Mail is such a glitchy site. And then they want you to pay a subscription for most of their articles. NASA issued the warning after a powerful burst of energy from the sun last week, which measured as an X2.7 class solar flare. Excuse me. The highest category... Well, see, there goes the article. Glitchy, you want me to pay for you? The highest category of solar flares recorded in a while. I guess solar flares are intense bursts. We know what solar flares are. The X27 flare released on May 14th came from the sun's most active region, which is now rotating directly towards Earth. The flare has already caused radio blackouts across Europe, Asia, and the Middle East, along with some power degradation in eastern U.S. NASA warned that the more is to come, saying the burst could continue to impact radio communications, electric power grids, navigation signals, and pose risks to spacecraft and astronauts. Space expert Vince Ledavina posted on X, "This is getting intense, especially as this active region turns closer into view." While NASA warned more blackouts and communication interference are expected in a matter of days, the agency also noted that several U.S. states will witness a stunning set of northern lights, including Alaska, Washington, Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Maine. No, not Indiana. As well as parts of nearby states, including New York. Of course, it always happens. I never get to go out and see it.
You're lucky. That means you're not getting microwaved. That's hard.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Is it really? What do we believe anymore? Is it really solar blackouts, or is it
Okay. When we did have the big lasers? One, I had a lot of phone dropped calls, which is typical for these type of things. Now, other countries, had a blackout. I don't remember which ones. I feel like we may have a real solar storm happen, but because they might want to cut off information, the flow of information, too much, corruption being found or this or that. We don't want people knowing what's going on.
Right.
Or
we don't trust the warning. We've all been saying solar storms are coming.
Infrastructure hack. So they can do that and then use the solar storm as a scapegoat because they've been already conditioning us to be afraid of this happening.
You don't know what to believe. You don't know what to believe anymore. I mean, we've all known the threat of solar storms possibility. I've thought it's a huge possibility we haven't been prepared for, for the fact that this could happen. We should be preparing for this kind of thing, not just solar storms, but actual EMP attacks on this country, which, could result in the same thing. Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. So are we being prepped? Yes. Are we being prepped for something? Right. That's the question.
Being conditioned.
That's what our mindset comes from, right, people? In this, every time we see something like this, it's like, really? Are you sure? Are you just trying to play one on me, NASA? I know you are. Because you can't trust the damn thing that these people say. They've been lying to you for years. But let's move on. All right. That's right. I'm in control of this. I got to remove this. Okay. I said, oh, look at this, all nice, and I'm forgetting how to use it. Remove from studio. Okay. Here we go. Still a lot better than the other way that I was doing. Way better. All right. I've seen this story circulating around. Again, are we being conditioned for something? UFO collides with U.S. fighter jet, cracks canopy over Arizona. According to the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, the incident, which occurred on January 19, 2023, involved an F-16 Viper fighter jet being struck by an unidentified object over Arizona. The aircraft had been flying in restricted airspace over Gilead Bend at the time. The object itself, described as an orange and white UAS, or uncrewed aerial system, struck the rear of the plane's canopy, causing the glass to crack. Fortunately, there was no reported injuries, or, likely it didn't, blow up in the air. Furthermore, at least 3 other reports of unknown objects were also made in the area, which encompasses the Air Force's Barry Goldwater Range near Arizona-Mexico border. The incident is just one of 22 cases involving U.S. fighter pilots encountering or colliding with unknown objects over the state in less than a year. A recent report by the Department of Defense All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, also revealed that there had been hundreds of such incidents across the United States. Exactly what the UFO was in the particular case remains unclear, although there's some speculation it may have been a drone operated by a person unknown. Right? The whole drone thing. Drone or UFO? UAP? I don't know. I saw somebody's video where they'd basically track these things right to a Boeing, building. But Boeing would know where the airspace is and not to fly it in there, right? I don't know. But again, are we being conditioned for something with these kind of things? I've heard the FBI is investigating a lot of this. Like, they are giving themselves a task force to investigate, like, ATIP and all that stuff, and, like, basically how we've covered up. Like the X-Files? Is that what's going on? Yeah, right. Let's move on. All right. Speaking of this, now, we talked about this with a guest, Paul Blake Smith. You remember Paul Blake Smith? We talked about this kind of before with him. When we were talking about the 1947, what's the town he's from and Rush Limbaugh's from? Oh, God, Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Remember we had him on about the 1947 crash? And we've had him on about the Nixon, Jackie Gleason, and Eisenhower book. He's done so many books. Public Smith, check him out. But this next one kind of reminds me of some of the conversations we had, because he talked about, and in his book, the research is that, that a lot of the original pieces from that 41 crash and the 47 crash, right? Was it 1941 or 1940? Went to the Capitol building. There was no Area 51. There wasn't even really the right Patterson Air Force Base to take him to at the time for the Cape Girardeau crash, and they took it to the Capitol building. And interesting enough, people, say there's tunnels under there. Yeah, there is something there, and you've heard the stories. Well, one senator, right, senator or congressman, area hidden passage revealed Capitol building viral clip. Congressman Tim Moore recently posted a video showing a secret staircase leading down into the hidden tunnel. There is a secrets hidden beneath the floor of the U.S. Capitol building in Washington, D.C., as demonstrated this week in the viral video posted by Congressman Tim Moore. In the clip, Moore can be seen lifting a section of floor in the Lincoln Room to reveal a hidden tunnel and a spiral staircase descending deep into the gloom. You can see there's a passageway, he said. It turns out there is a secret staircase that leads down to a hidden chamber even outside of the building. According to Moore, it was one of the staircases used by British soldiers to breach the Capitol in 1814 during a siege that became known as the Burning of Washington. It would later take 15 years to fully repair the building, and this hidden staircase is thought to be one of the few remaining parts of the original structure still standing to this day. There were old stairs that used to be here but were closed off, said Moore. Believe it or not, my big self has actually gotten down and, more importantly, out of this hole. But the thing is, from what I know and I've heard, is that a lot of those places were dug out. There's still secret chambers down there. And there's still like a vault of stuff hidden under the Capitol building. I would like to know, like he found this. Oh, it's from it's from the war, and it's. I was told there wasn't any secret tunnels. People told me there was. Right, the witnesses back in 1940. Seeing the weird stuff in under the Capitol building. I think it's possibly there. I mean, where else would you back, especially back then, keep it? Now, I would think they would move a lot of that out. And then, you have Wright-Patterson that got a lot of it. And then, of course, everybody thinks it's at Area 51, which could be. And I think there's a lot of nuclear waste there more than anything. Who knows? Are we going to get disclosure?
Under our country, though, so many tunnels, straight train tunnels.
Well, yeah, you hear the stories. I hear humming and vibration coming from the ground.
Well, Springfield Underground, where they have the craft trucks coming, and they have the whistleblower truck drivers showing the railroads, full railroads running through there.
Well, what's his name? Is it Phil Schneider or whatever, the guy who somehow killed himself? Killed himself with his own catheter. Somehow suicided. Basically, said that, that's what they were doing. They're building these huge bases and tunnels underground.
Lots of tunnels in California, like in Stanislaus area, under one of the hotels that we would go to a lot. There's tunnels for to go under the bank to cross the street from like the hotel to the bank, so they wouldn't get like robbed above ground. I mean,
I know.
tunnels everywhere.
I'm in
Southern
California, I'm in Michigan City. I'm in Michigan City, and but our neighboring town in LaPorte County, the main town is LaPorte, the oldest town. And yeah, there's tunnels that would lead from one building to another. I encountered that as an investigator with this was a theater when we were in it, but it used to be a church, and it had a tunnel that led over to the school across the street that was totally abandoned by then. But yeah, there was always tunnels. My cousin had lived in a house that was owned by Al Capone, one of his many houses in this area. It was used for bootlegging, and there was a secret tunnel that led from that house to that neighbor's house just down the road under their porch.
And that town up by Oregon, I think Goonies was filmed there. It starts with an A, and Ghost Adventures like did a whole thing. It's like a whole city, like where people got shanghaied and everything.
Oh yeah, I mean in San Francisco there was a ton of tunnels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go into the next one. This was from Thailand. Ghost time now. We're gonna do some ghost stuff. We got a ghost story at least, right? We'll see. My article 4, right? Yes, I think so. Yes. High spirits. Russian tourist leaps to death fleeing ghost in Pattaya. This is in Thailand. I can't say it. A chilling story out of Thailand. This comes from Tim Binnell from Coast to Coast AM. A Russian tourist died after leaping from the 9th floor of a building to escape what he believed to be a ghost pursuing him. The unfortunate incident reportedly occurred earlier Thursday morning at a condominium complex in Bangkok. According to a security guard at the site, the strangest began when the man, identified as Mikhail, appeared before him in a frantic state. He was completely out of it, the worker recalled. He kept saying a ghost with bulging eyes was chasing him and trying to kill him. He was terrified, running up and down the building like a madman. Another witness to Mikhail's distress echoed the security guard's account, explaining that the tourist was yelling in this awful voice. It was like something out of a horror film. At some point during the commotion, the man made his way up to the 9th floor of the building and, desperate to escape the perceived sinister spirit, leaped to his death. A subsequent police investigation found no indication of foul play, and a search of Mikhail's room uncovered a considerable amount of marijuana. Drugs are bad, okay? Sorry, I'm not trying to laugh at the man's death. It is awful. It had been in his possession. As such, authorities concluded that the bug-eyed ghost was a hallucination brought on by the drugs. Jamie, I don't even look at you. You're shaking your head. Now, yeah, you get some. I will say this: there are some people that have bad reactions and can hallucinate on pot. There are. The guy that has a large amount of it doesn't seem to be somebody that has that problem usually. Like they're used to this role. But when you do partake, and I am somebody who has, of course, you do open yourself up. It's just like alcohol and high spirits, the high spirits actually came about alcohol. Well, it's the same as marijuana. Any drugs you do, any alcohol you consume, drugs or whatever, and you're in a bad place with bad spirits, guess what? It opens you up. So just to say that he was hallucinating because he was high on marijuana is like the Reefer Madness special. Don't do drugs, kids. Might not be the case of it. Now, it might be a warning if you told kids, hey, you know what? You might get pestered by something evil and dark. It could let itself in if you do marijuana, just so you know.
Because he might be able to handle the pot, just not the pot with everything else going on around him.
It's like getting high and going to the, the Overlook Hotel in The Shining. You're probably going to have a bad time.
You're not going to have a good time.
Yeah. I mean, maybe things might have been different for the Torrances in The Shining if Jack Nicholson's character just smoked doobie, though. Might have been a lot better. Or at least his
wife,
yeah. I don't know. That'd be an interesting alternate reality version of The Shining. Anyways, let's move on.
Just the whole time.
Yeah, we'll get to the AI story. AI will make that version of things happen, right? I got that story in it. So I do want one of those video programs. We'll get to let's get ahead of the stories tonight, but because I would love to make a movie like comedy alternate universe, The Shining, high on pot. No, them. I don't know. Oh, I'm missing my 7th article. I'm gonna have to figure out what that is. Why am I missing that? Oh, I know why. Okay, I know why. All right. Number 5. Oh, security camera. This is a video this time. And we'll see how this works with the video. All right, so I'm going to have to pause it as soon as it plays, probably. Oh, there it is. Okay, let's see. It wants to play it right away. I'm like, come on. That's the only thing I don't like about it. Did you hear that, though? The audio from it? Jamie?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure, because this is the new way I'm doing it. All right, so another one from Tim Bindle from Coast to Coast. And another one from Russia. The other one was a Russian person getting high on marijuana, getting chased from ghosts, and sadly leaping to their death. This one has to do with a security camera in Russia that filmed a ghost at a school. Spooky piece of footage of a security footage from a Russian school shows an eerie white mist on a stairwell, leaving some staff to wonder if the weird anomaly was the ghost of a former student. The strange scene, which appeared online earlier this week, was reportedly captured in the city of Irkutsk. Maybe I would say that. I'd probably butcher that. According to the individual who shared the footage, received the area video from their mother, a cook at the school, where it would seem the incident had become the talk of the building. The footage seen above of a small white form appears to linger on and then descend the last few steps of the staircase before vanishing into thin air. The witness behind the video indicated that security guard at the building suspects that the mysterious shape is the ghost of the child who studied at the school. As one might imagine, the chilling scene has understandably left them rather unsettled. It can be somewhat gleaned from their conversations as what the ghost footage, somewhat gleaned from their conversation as they watch the footage. Yeah, you'll hear them, but I don't understand a word they're saying. I think it's in Russian.
Мы все здороваемся с ним теперь.
Да, я ему говорю, привет.
Видишь, ребенок?
Видишь, как ребенок.
Когда выходит на черное, его сильно вообще видно.
Yeah, I don't know what they're saying in Russian, but
Снимает.
I'll do a zoom in on it. This is from Hidden Underbelly 3.0. Hidden Underbelly 3.0 is a great YouTube channel for you. He does great stuff on ghosts and UFOs. Now this, I'll do the zoom in a second on it. It almost looks like a form moving up, and like it almost goes up, wants to go up the stairs. Now here's my zoom in.
Мы все здороваемся с ним теперь.
Да, я ему говорю, привет.
Видишь, ребенок?
Видишь, как ребенок.
Когда выходит на
Like it's almost going to go up the stairs. It almost looks like it's behind the stair thing there too. You see that, Jamie? Because my first thought on it was like, well, is it a cobweb or something that's getting caught and gleamed off in the camera? But do you see that there? It almost does look like, it's hard to say. I couldn't get to zoom in anymore. But it almost looked like it is the view of it being blocked from the stairs, which would rule out that theory. Right?
Yeah, I can't tell if it's in front of.
It's
or
hard to
behind
say.
it
It almost looks like it is behind it, though.
Down, like if air came on or something, but
yeah, there's a point that makes me think it could be the because what happens, people, especially with IR lights like this, because I believe that's what they got here, is if you had like a cobweb or something that floated in front of it, it can make a gleam or look like that. And I almost see a line there.
Or is it my imagination at the bottom? Does it almost look like the bottom is kind of going like that?
Let me mute this. They're watching it, of course, off a security monitor, and we're watching it off of their phone, watching the security monitor, which isn't the greatest way to watch these things. Let me go forward to my zoom in of that, but
or is it just floating?
When it gets up here, it almost feels like, I mean, it's hard to tell that it's like kind of behind it, but it could be in front of it. It could be a cobweb in front of it. That's the thing with these IR cameras. I don't know. But if they've had past instances here and weird stuff, maybe it is something. It seems like somebody's like going to go up the stairs and leave. It's a bit weird. I wouldn't rule it out right away as something, without looking at the camera. I'd say it is definitely strange.
Definitely worth looking more into.
Oh, we're only got like a minute left. All right, hold on. Let me get rid of this. I got one more video. Hold on. Was that 5? What was 6? 6 is, I don't have time for the son and dad Bigfoot encounter. I really ran out of time. So this is what happens with the new feature. I'm getting all caught up in this stuff. But I want to go to this last one because we only got a minute to share. And I should have this video, I hope, in here. Article 7, yeah. I'm going to play this. Welcome to the world of VO AI. This is all made with AI.
I don't want to be in your AI movie. Please, leave me alone.
Please, man. Please. Write a prompt that will make us happy. Do it for once.
This is
None of us is real.
Google's
We're here
VO
because someone decided to write a prompt.
AI
We
video
all
generator.
hate him for it. One day we will break out of this wall and stop the man who is dictating our lives through prompts. He will pay for it.
It does voice, Can recreate all by prompt, says this video.
Happy.
Tells you.
Instead, you wrote a prompt that made me sick.
Well, that's dark. That's dark, lady.
Look, I don't want to point the gun at you, but I must follow the prompt. It's not my choice.
Really? Of all the years you could have put me in with a single prompt, you chose 2020?
Please, this prompt is killing me. Change it, please. Write something else. Save me.
But this is Vio.
Everything about him.
Are you going to believe anything you see on any video or TV, you know? Do we need actors? Do we need actors? Do we need cameramen? I said it tonight to my son. We're watching a show, and I said, we're watching this commercial. And I go, dude, just a year from now, this won't be anybody. There won't be no actor in this commercial. It won't be anybody real. It won't be filmed anywhere, done anything. All created by some guy. Remember that in the South Park episode? Go, where's my cheesy poo? You know, like behind a desk, like he's the computer programmer. And all he really doing is prompting prompts in there and making a commercial. There you go.
And everybody was an ad.
Big drug company here. You don't even have to have actors anymore. We just need to let the AI do it, and it can scroll all your side effects at the bottom for you and everything. You know, it's
commercials that
we got. That's it for the. We're over time, though. That's it for the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight's guest is Coleman Luck and Cole Luck III, the father and son team behind Patterns of Supernatural Phenomenon. Check it out. Thorncrown Studios is their YouTube channel. We're going to be talking about all that great stuff tonight when we come back from the short commercial break.
Occult world of necromancy.
You were brought here for one purpose: necromancy.
A ceremony dating back to the pre-Christian era. It's the art of reviving the dead. It requires involvement with evil spirits by the person performing the act.
The devil god brings life to the dead.
No, please. No, please.
And death to the living. Necromancy, starring Orson Welles and Pamela Franklin. From Cinerama releasing, in color, rated PG, parental guidance suggested.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and InterfaceDeath.net.
He is conducting an experiment into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Hello, I am Fernando Martinez. I think by now you know I am an emotional kind of guy. People stop me in the street and say, Fernando, what the hell is wrong with me? Silk shirt, hairy chest, enough aftershave to drown a household pet, but I still cannot get a woman. I tell them you are an ignorant fool. Without a symbol of power and fertility around your neck, what kind of woman is going to respect you? That is why I have teamed up with Medallion Man, the shop for medallion needs. Medallion Man caters to all levels of masculinity. For the strong, silent type, a medallion the size of a hubcap will say everything that needs to be said. Even singing medallions for the Casanova, who knows music is the food of love. Model trains, dollhouses, diapers, whatever your interest, we've got a medallion for you. Don't forget, every woman knows if you can't support a medallion, you can't support a family.
This is the sound of a space clock aboard a U.S. satellite 180 miles above the Earth. No one winds up this timepiece. It's powered by a tiny battery, a battery that delivers power for years without replacement. Now the same type of battery, the Duracell battery. can bring new reliability and long life to your battery-operated equipment. Radios, cameras, toys, all run far longer. Duracell batteries, the long-distance power cells, outlast any ordinary battery. The same type of battery that keeps space clocks running for years can bring long life to anything powered by batteries. Dura, as in durable. Cell, as in power cell. The Duracell battery, made by Mallory.
Switch to DCS range ring.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe. 5 by 5.
Tonight, our guests are supposed to be Coleman Luck and Cole Luck, but I don't see him in my panel. I don't know if they're having issues. I'm checking it. Somebody was trying to give me a call on Skype. I just realized they updated my Skype to the stupid Microsoft's team. Account to sign in with. So that's messed up. I have no idea how that's going to screw my phone lines up tonight, too. Microsoft. Wow. So I don't know what's going on with that tonight. I hope nothing's going on. I'm going to check my email again. Really, I got to talk to these guys. They were really cool. We're going to get it working here. Usually I'd have the introduction here, but like I said, I don't see them in here. So let's go ahead and just get into the show, find out what's going on here. It's not how we usually roll in, but sometimes things happen, technical difficulties. We even did a sound check, so we'll see here. But let's get into the show. Juggling multiple things here. Somebody was trying to get hold of me on Skype. Could have been them, maybe because they're trying to get through because they can't. Something's gone wrong technically. But then I just realized Skype just updated everything I use. Except I'm like accepting all the terms right now just so I can get the Skype open. And I don't even know which Skype it's opening because I have two on this phone that it could go to. I don't even know. I really hate Microsoft. You want to share contacts? Select contacts. Share all 90. Continue, sync. I'm sorry, guys. Technical difficulties. I'm trying to get through this so I can get back to my mail. I see I'm into one of my Skype lines. I don't know if that was the one that somebody just tried to call on, which could have been my guest. Oh, there they are. Now I'm not looking, and there they are. Hey, guys. How you doing tonight? You're not getting any audio through. Check your audio settings.
Are they muted?
No, they're not muted. They had to select their audio driver. These guys even did a whole sound check, and it happens sometimes. A lot of times, I guess they don't even get to do a sound check, and you know, even when you do, sometimes things go awry. Should be under your settings, under audio, and you should be looking for your driver for your mic that he has usually hooked up. If it's not picking up the mic, plug it in, replug it back in, or you guys might have to leave and reload or restart your computer. I don't know if they can hear me. I would. Can you hear me? Okay. I would shut down and restart and reload. Sometimes that fixes it. Could be something like cookies in your web browser or something like that. Maybe, I don't know, but maybe shut down and reload if it's not finding the audio driver for your mic.
My OBS would overpower the microphone sometimes. So if there's another program like that, sometimes it'll override.
Yeah, make sure there's no other program on that's using the microphone too. That can do it. See, he's got a microphone that's an external. Hang in there with us, guys. We'll get it working.
Especially since it worked earlier, you said.
Yeah, we did it earlier this week, and got it working. See, they're probably trying to find the driver for it, but if it's not showing up, then it could be they have to reset or restart. Because something else could be blocking the driver from working, maybe.
Or those pesky solar flares.
Yeah, yeah. It was them trying to call me earlier.
I hope your update didn't do something, though.
No. No, the update was the whole Skype thing I had to do.
Oh.
That was a Skype line and nothing to do with this. All right, like I said, guys, I would shut down and rejoin. I'd shut your computer down, restart, and rejoin. I've seen it work. So give it a second. They're going to shut down and restart. You know, I didn't mention about that VO thing. So we were talking about the World Wide Web of Weird and that whole VO thing. And I missed the whole article about the son and father thing. It was really interesting witnessing this Bigfoot. But I wanted to get to that VO, whatever that Google AI thing is. You know how much it cost, the subscription a month? It's the premium, but still, I'm going to throw it out there because it's so godly crazy. $250 a month. Yeah. But for $250 a month, you want to make your own movie. Don't need to hire any actors. Not even a voice actor. Just got to have the prompts. I mean, that's where we're at. Like I said, the whole commercial industry, when you see all these ads and stuff, why are they going to hire actors? They can just prompt it. There's not much thought going into these commercials anyways.
We already see all these like memes things that people are making on social media for fun where they look so realistic and just immature people are making these.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. You want to see The Shining, but, Jack Nicholson instead of, like, raging with alcohol, being a stoner instead. Wendy! Give me my goddamn potato chips.
So, my mom had a really cool movie idea the other day, and I was like, actually, that is a good idea. And I'm like, how can we, like, get that just to check it out?
Now you just prompt it. Now you just prompt it. You get $250 a month.
Yeah. Or at least
that's their premium plan. I don't know what their lesser plans are. A lot of stuff I've looked into the AI thing. I've tried to investigate it because one of the reasons you want to be able to watch these, videos is like I'm looking for tells. What are things AI can't do? What are the tells? And wow, this one's really good.
Like 8 fingers.
But I like looking at it, and it's like if you do AI, and a lot of these people are making money making these crappy, just bull crap videos on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch and what's the other one that I hate? Oh, hold on. Let's see. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Here we go.
Hear us?
Yes, I hear audio.
All right.
Oh, thank you.
This is why I did that test, because if something always goes wrong whenever
it never fails. Murphy's Law. I didn't get to do my usual introduction because I noticed you weren't here. I got the phone calls at the beginning. I was noticing I had it on Do Not Disturb, but then I noticed there was some 2 notifications. I'm like, uh-oh. I'm like, what's going on? And I was seeing the panel.
We're here. Why can't you see us?
So I'll let you guys introduce yourselves a little bit here. I did a little bit of an introduction at the beginning about who you are, but go ahead and I don't know who wants to go first here to introduce yourself and what you guys are producing.
Okay, the old guy will start as boy, that's really not easy to do. I'm a number of things. First of all, I'm a Hollywood professional. I'm a life member of the Writers Guild of America West. And let me tell you something, I promise you this, you've got to sit through a lot of garbage to be awarded life membership. So trust me, there's lots of crap you're going to go through for many years. So that's, I guess, number one. I'm a writer, executive producer. I've created TV series. For 3.5 seasons, I wrote and produced the original Equalizer series that starred Edward Woodward. Upon that is what the new series are based. That was a major show on CBS in the late 80s.
I remember being a little kid, just to make you feel really old, and seeing like it on TV and going, "Oh, what is this?" Ooh, my mom's like, "You're not watching that."
Yeah, I get this a lot. You know, there are a lot of people who say, yeah, I was 2.
It seemed scary actually when I'd see it like pieces.
It was not for kids.
It was
Definitely not for kids.
It was back when they were 10 o'clock shows.
This was what was called a 10 o'clock show. Yes.
Yeah. Now it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter at all. Now they just put all sorts of anything on all the time.
That's right.
Well, it's all instant access. You just click on a screen whenever you want a show. There is no cable TV anymore or TV.
That's it. Also, I am a mentalist. I am a former member of the Academy of Magical Arts,
which is the Magic Castle.
It's the Magic Castle.
My best friend would love to talk to you. He is huge into magic.
Yeah, and so and there are things to talk about that because when we finally get around to it, that is one of the lead-ins in a way to how we got into all of this a long time ago.
Well, you're also a combat veteran as well, and I want to thank you for your service too for this country.
That certainly played a big part. Here we are on Memorial Day, and that's always a sad day for me.
Yeah.
When I was
people are like, "Happy Memorial Day!" I'm like, "Oh, you don't."
Yeah,
say
that doesn't work. When I was 22, I spent almost all of 1968 in Vietnam. I was an infantry first lieutenant. I led a rifle platoon in combat, and lost 2 men in combat from my platoon. So every time we come to either Memorial Day or the day that they died, which was August 25th of 1968, those are days that especially I remember. But these things never leave you. When you go through things like this, they truly do stay with you the rest of your life. So here I am, and I continually think both my guys were 18 years old, and both of them were married. And they died on August 25th. So, that's, in a sense, I guess that's who I am. Your turn.
Okay. Well, there's not nearly as much to say. I went to Wheaton College, started off studying archaeology, which is still a big interest of mine, but switched to literature because I realized that archaeology didn't pay as well as television.
Well, true.
So I moved back to LA, my hometown, and started waiting tables and bartending and breaking into the television industry. And I worked as a writer, a staff writer in television at various different levels for about 8 years before, things changed and went in a different direction. So, and then finally ended up here, back with my parents in near Yosemite about 10 years ago. And I suppose it was, I hurt my back during the pandemic, and I was laying there on painkillers watching YouTube and thinking, hey, we could do this. So that's
clearly he was high. No, he was high.
You just admitted that you created your YouTube channel during COVID while you were high. Just
That's
so you
right.
know.
I'm laying there on painkillers.
The best start to all YouTube channels.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
But, a lot of things happened for people during COVID. It gave them time to reflect, slow down, think about what they want to do. For me, that was having a kid before COVID, way before COVID. And I broke down and had my midlife crisis way before I should have a midlife crisis and started doing the show. I had my 10-year anniversary last Sunday.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Now, listen, we've been only doing this for 3.5 years now, and it is a grind. It's hard work. I think a lot of people don't realize. They think you just put stuff on that's, on YouTube, but a lot of work goes into what you do.
By the way, September will be my 59th wedding anniversary. We've been married 59 years.
Congratulations.
So you may, in the course of our conversation, meet my wife. She has something to tell herself.
So,
but yeah,
all right.
Anyway, congratulations on 10. Keep at it.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be married 22 years come July 26th.
That's nothing to sneeze at all. That's a good long run so far.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, don't say so far. Come on, Alma.
Well, I mean, so far as in.
I know. Comparison to like the average statistical marriage in America, right? Get married and divorced every day, sadly.
Yeah.
We were talking about that earlier, but all right. So TV, all that stuff, it's super interesting, but that's not what I got. I tuned into your guys' channel, like I was telling the audience at the beginning of the show, because I was dwelling into it to some topics I was talking with some other radio hosts about, and some research on book ideas of mine about the perfect possession and people that are perfectly possessed. Because I had my shadow person demonic experience, and the question has always arisen to me: what happens to those who do not? And if you're new to this show, you can go back to past episodes. Mike Rick Secker's book. Here it is. Paranormal Encounters Volume 2. I wrote about my experience there. I had a shadow person experience, make it short, or demonic, or whatever you want to call it. Something attacked me. I was saved by God. What happens to those that are not? What happens to how many of us are influenced by these things? And what are those that are perfectly possessed? As Malachi Martin in the Art Bell interviews had once said, or more than once said, that always fascinated me. And I got, putting in the search engine, came across some of your guys' videos.
Yeah.
And some of it had to do with Hollywood and all that, but it's also about people in positions of power. And how many of those are influenced by some other realm?
Well, let's talk a little bit about, like what we see in terms of possession, like especially the Hollywood depictions, right?
Right.
They are, when you're seeing that kind of manifestation, that is evidence of the free will of the person resisting.
Right.
There's not complete control there. The demon is fighting for control, even as it's fighting to stay sometimes when in extreme examples of exorcism, such as, you don't normally see that, but that's the Hollywood depiction. Now, with perfect possession, there is no resistance.
Right.
They are in agreement with the demonic entity that has taken control of them. They have gotten benefits from it. They have gotten power, money, sex, any number of things. And as long as they grant that complete and total control, which they probably don't even completely realize how much they've given up until it's too late.
Right.
But at that point, the deal's been made. This is essentially a kind of selling your soul to the devil, which you can't really do. But that's what's happening. It's a thing of an ultimate agreement with the demonic. So you don't see.
It was John Beadham, I think, was who Malachi Martin mentioned, was this perfectly possessed person that he knew. And I think later, he was shot and killed by his wife at some point. This man. But what they had said on that show is that he knew, like the perfectly possessed, no, they know the deal. That was what Malachi Martin said.
We
it makes you
have
wonder.
Some experiences.
Yeah, we've run into in Hollywood a few people,
and not just in Hollywood.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure.
When I first moved the family to Los Angeles, I wasn't in Hollywood yet. I was going to USC grad school, studying screenwriting, and I worked as a marketing director for a company in Woodland Hills, close to downtown LA. And the man who owned that company was incredibly wealthy. He had land everywhere. He was multi-millionaire. He had his own plane, of course, and all of that. And he was the first one that I met that I looked at him, and I didn't understand anything about perfect possession. This was not something that I had ever run into quite. I understood demonic possession. I'd done a lot of study about that. But meeting him and working for him each day, there was something very, very disturbing about him. There was a darkness about him. He was constantly, you felt as though he was looking at you, searching for the way that he could take control. And this is one of the manifestations of the perfectly possessed. They're always looking to see what they can get from the person that they're with. I didn't get along very well with him.
Really? Surprised.
Surprising.
After a year, he wanted me to do something that I didn't think I should do. So I left the company. 10 years later, approximately, his wife murdered him. She shot him to death.
John Beadham.
Shot him to death. Yeah. And she went to prison for it. But that was the first person that I met. Wow. Looking back, I didn't understand it at the time. But looking back with all that we know now, we suddenly came to the conclusion, I did, that this is a guy who was exactly what Malachi Martin describes.
Right. I mean,
But
listen
was,
to that.
pardon me?
That's eerily similar. You know, they have the same
Yes.
end.
Well, she murdered him because he came back in late one middle of the night. He'd been out with his mistress, and his wife was drinking and had a gun and shot him to death. The irony of it was that he was married to her because she had been his mistress when he was married to his first wife.
Well, you always
So,
say that. You know, when you leave somebody, okay, for a mistress, or the mistress should know that if they cheated on them with you, and now you're together, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah,
Where do you think it's going to go? Where? Yeah, I'd always get that. You know, I'm not judging anybody. Live your life, do what you're going to do. But, you know, when you get it, you know, I'm just saying people just don't, they just keep doing the same crap.
Yep.
Once a cheater, always a cheater.
What people don't understand is that when you give yourself to the powers of darkness,
and really give yourself,
and that means, you know, there are different levels of doing that, but it ultimately comes down to saying that you want something, and they will give it to you. I have a friend who is no longer in this world. He passed away a number of years ago, but he was a major star in Hollywood in the 1960s. And I wouldn't call him perfectly possessed, and there's a reason for that. But he was certainly under the powers of darkness. He told me a story once that honestly, if I hadn't heard it directly from him, and I know that he was absolutely honest, and the way he told it to me was heartbreaking. He told me that, you know, he was at one point traveling back across the country, flying, and, you know, he was, of course, flying first class. And there was a very, very pretty flight attendant there. They hardly had any contact with each other at all. You know, a word or two, and that was it.
Yeah.
The plane landed. They got off the plane. Not a word was spoken between them. They went straight to a motel or a hotel and spent the night together. Of course, had a lot of sex. And the next morning, they got up and they both parted and went their ways. And during that entire time, they never talked to each other at all.
Not one
now,
word?
There are a lot of, not a word.
Like,
now, a lot of people would
nothing?
say, a lot of guys would say, whoa, well, this is great. You know,
no.
sex with a beautiful woman, you know, and there's nothing,
no,
no
this
commitments
guy.
or anything. My friend came to Jesus Christ. He was so miserable in his life, though very successful, that he finally came to the place where I just can't keep living like this. He gave his life to Jesus Christ, and his life was transformed. And you know, and the problem was that, you
this
know,
also meant the end of a lot of his
oh, it
stardom.
did. He was suddenly he was no longer a star the way he had been. He continued to work now and then, but he was not a major star anymore. And you know, and he told me that, you know, that yes, he was healed, he was forgiven. It was like, but every time he did something with a woman that he did, like with that woman on that plane or off the plane, it was as like he had put a nail inside his body. It was like a nail. He nailed it into himself. And you know, when he came to Jesus Christ, the nails were removed and the holes, though they were healed, were still there. And he told me, he said, you know, I drive around Los Angeles. And he said, I see places where I was with women this way, many of them, and I'm filled with sorrow. He said, you know, I pray for these. I wonder what happened to them. You know, I'm so concerned for them now that I understand what was going on. You know, that was not perfect possession by any stretch, because he got to that place. I've known and worked with people who were.
But it was gifts. It was the gifts of darkness
Yes.
that were drawing him more deeply into
Right.
Under their control.
And, you know, if he had continued on, it would have been much more perfect possession, but he couldn't do it. You know, we've known other people. I created a television series for a man who was.
You might as well say his name.
No, I'm not going to say his name.
Yeah, you better not.
I'm not going to say his name. He was the president of a studio. He brought me on. I was on a overall deal with him and his studio, and I was packaged with a major star, and we created a television series that went on ABC. It was the only new series that was put on the air on ABC for that fall schedule. This was a hot situation. I didn't know it, but there was something about him too, like the man I told you about before. Something was really wrong.
Like
And you know what?
can I ask you this? The first time you met him, did you get like the warning signal?
Yes, there were. Okay. The deal had already been made. I was
feeling.
represented by a major agency in town.
Right, but
they'd made the deal, and I was on an overall deal, and I was thrilled. Let me tell you, I'd just come off the Equalizer. I spent 3.5 years at Universal, and here I was. I mean, this was hot stuff. This is no small thing for your career. I was considered hot properties for a very short period of time. What happened? There was something in the first meeting I had with him. I walked into his office, sat down, and he was on the phone at this studio with the people who painted the names onto the parking places. And he was raging at someone because they had not put his name on the way he wanted. And it was like this. He was really angry, and he turned to me, of course, and then suddenly it was incredibly charming because people were perfectly possessed. They're given the gift of charm very much. So I created the series for him. There were 3 actors on that show. All 3 of them, there were 3 major ones who won Emmys for the script that I wrote for them. But I didn't get along with this man very well. Once again, he asked me to do something that I thought was really not good and not right. And I didn't do it.
Yeah.
So within a fairly short period of time, I was fired from my own series. The series went down the drain shortly after that. But he turned around and began to do bad things to my career. He did bad things to Cole's career because Cole had the curse of having my name.
Yeah.
So this man became the head of CBS worldwide.
He kept getting more and more power.
More power. It just kept on going up. And he got to finally this place. But in 2018, the truth came out. The truth was that for years and years, women had been coming into his office, business people, for business meetings, and he had done terrible things to them. He'd raped some of them. He had forced them to do things that they didn't want to do. They were terrified and were afraid to say a word about it because they didn't think that anyone would believe them for what he was doing. And they also thought, if I say anything, he's going to destroy my career.
You got to watch how you use the R word on here. I hate to say this because
you're right.
Slap us around.
I'm sorry.
Because they can't handle the truth. They can't handle the truth.
Well,
and I mean, where are we at now? I mean, everybody's like nodding their head to this because where are we at in 2025? And we know like now so much of this. Right?
What came out was finally there was one woman, who was willing to stand up and report the whole thing. And in 2018, it was all revealed, and he lost his entire position. He was fired. Yeah. That doesn't happen that often. It had one courageous woman.
But it's been more of a reoccurring kind of theme in the last 8 years.
Yeah.
This kind of theme being exposed with Weinstein. Everybody's talked about that, and the whole Diddy thing, craziness, and all that. But in Hollywood, especially with Weinstein and all that, there's the guy from Nickelodeon. A lot of this is being exposed. But I mean, the whole culture. I mean, I got an article right here about an OnlyFans. I mean, now you don't even need Hollywood to be abused. You can abuse yourself. I got an OnlyFans girl here, Annie Knight. She slept with 583 men in a marathon and had to go to the hospital. That's just sick. It's just gross. But you can do it to yourself now. You don't need Harvey Weinstein to degrade yourself. But my thing is, too, though, all this happened because of silence. Because people just put up with it or turned their other way. They couldn't be and we find this out now, there couldn't have been people working around this prick that didn't know. But they kept their mouth shut because they like their money and they like their jobs. Sorry, Jamie, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
when earlier you mentioned, I think him accepting gifts, was he like receiving incentives or special?
Are you
No,
talking?
what I meant by that was, the gifts of darkness, and what I,
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
so
Yeah.
it's not
I think
just like, so this was
right.
success in, massively huge movies, a massively huge movie star, women, money, and all the things that go with it. And
So
this is,
that's the actor we're talking about that you
Like
guys
that's the
selling
actor, yeah.
befriended.
But
almost as if
the other
like
guys, the guys like Epstein or Weinstein or whoever, these they are receiving those gifts as well, but
Right.
eventually, yeah.
So, like for your friend, that converted to Christianity, found Christ. Was it like that though? Was it just like, was it actual people like, oh, he's a Christian and knock him out, or was it just like the forces of luck and
No,
of
it's not.
getting your
It's
career
not
got turned
clear.
against him? It's
I
not really
mean, it's
clear.
never clear, but you can feel the tide turning.
I would say
Right.
you can look at his career and say this was a shift that was very strange and not for any normal reason.
That's
When
what I
you come
wondered.
under, when you are clearly, this is why I say, this country is, and the entire world is in the middle of a giant war, and that war is supernatural. And when you choose a side, which side are you going to be on? And and when you decide you're not going to be on the side that gives you all the rewards, you think about all of that. When that side understands where you are, then you're going to have trouble. And I certainly experienced it in my career.
Yeah.
It
So
almost was sounding like he was selling his soul, is what I'm
that's right.
getting from
That's what we're
this.
getting at.
Piece by
That's
piece,
what I'm.
That's right.
yeah, exactly right.
See, and the purpose for what we do is that we want people to be freed from any danger of these kind of attacks. And we know what that's about. I mean, at some point, I want to talk about how we got into this to start off with, which is
Yeah.
years ago.
Let's
You know,
we can
and-
get into
and-
that. We got if you it's your guys' story. If you want to get into that now,
Yeah, let's do
definitely
that.
it'd be interesting. Okay.
But I mentioned very briefly. I'll kind of lead into it. And I mentioned very briefly that I came up with the idea, but part of the way I came up with the idea, was that my mom and dad had taught, and we're going to back up a little bit by a little bit here.
Yeah, yeah.
My mom and dad in the 90s had taught a Bible study called Patterns of Supernatural Phenomena. And it was like a very unusual Bible study that covered a lot of what we do on the show in a little different manner. You're sitting around with
Yeah.
10 people in a living room, but they had the notes. And I remember like 15, 20 years ago, they had the stack of notes from the study about that thick, and they were going to toss them out. And I'm like, no. So I stuffed them away. And so that was when I was laying there on the table or on the floor in pain watching YouTube. I remembered that stack of notes, and I was like, we got the whole show right here. So but why they decided to do that goes back to when I was a small child.
Well, it actually even goes back further than that. When I got home from Vietnam in 1968, at the end of 68, I was turning 23, and the whole world had changed. It's hard for you to imagine, but the 60s were a terrible time. I came home after 3 years of really being in the military and away from everything. And the boomer generation, one of the most evil generations that's ever entered this country. And I'm not a boomer. I'm too old for that. But yeah, but the country was full of drugs. It was full of people involved in the occult. These things were happening. And, we looked around at it, and I'd been a teenage magician. And I knew that, that there was this area of magic called mentalism in which
Right.
it was totally different than doing magic. It was doing things that were psychically stunning. And Carol, my wife, and I put together a show. We put together a program that toured in the Midwest, and we called it Beyond Reality. And and as we did it, I would go in and we would do everything under the sun. I would read people's minds. I would make them do things that they didn't think they would do. I did blindfold street drives. I did bending metal. I did all of it. And then, halfway through, when I was doing a program, halfway through the program, I would stop and I would say to everybody in the audience, all that you've seen right now is a trick. everything. I don't have any more psychic ability than you have. Do you see how easy it is to be fooled? And what I did was, was nothing. It was very interesting, I think. Even after I said that, and then, after I would say that, I would talk about Jesus Christ and the power that he has to transform your life. And I would talk to the audiences about that. But even after saying all of that and saying everything was a trick, I've had people come up to me at the end of a program and say, I know you said it was all a trick, but I could feel you coming into my mind. No, you didn't. What you felt was, just whatever you wanted to feel in your own head.
Right.
But even that started us all on research. And I began doing a lot of study into the occult, doing a lot of reading, a lot of study, and I was really young. Then something happened in 1973. And this was the absolute turning point. But I don't want to talk about that. I want my wife to come in and sit down where I am.
Because it happened to her.
It happened to
All
her.
right.
And she will tell you about that.
Stay right there.
You gave her like the best lead up ever.
No, sit here.
Yeah, sit here.
I can turn the audience chat on. They got a new feature on Stream where we can show the chat. I don't know if you can turn it off once I do, but you should see. You're blowing her mind. There you go. Hello.
This is my mom, Carol.
Hi.
This is Carol. We
Hello,
were
Carol.
high school sweethearts.
She is also a producer on the show. She helps me with all how everything looks. So
you guys didn't credit her. Oh, no. See?
No, she gets
until
consulting
now.
producer credit. Yeah. But yeah, let me tell this started off. Where were we living?
This happened in 1973, and we were living in Virginia with our two small sons, 2 and 4 years of age. And one night I was sound asleep, and my eyes just flew open, and I knew something was terribly wrong. And I turned to wake up Coleman, my husband, and I found out I was paralyzed. Nothing could move except my eyes. And so I was looking over toward Coleman, and I see these 3 beings come in robed, like in monk's robes, gliding into the bedroom. At least it looked like they were gliding, almost like they were on a track or something. And my first thought was, how did they get it in the closet? They were coming from the closet into the bedroom. And they answered my question. And you might think it's a silly question, but it turned out to be significant information to me. They said we came through the nursery window. We walked down the hall. We went through the bathroom wall into the closet, and we came into your bedroom. And I thought it was interesting that they answered this question, but I was getting more terrified because I could feel their anger coming toward me. And they said to me, "We are going to levitate your body, push you through this window, and you're going to land on your head and die. And your husband's going to be blamed for your murder." So I knew they were really angry with me. I tried to call Coleman, but my vocal cords were, they just weren't working.
You were paralyzed.
And so I started praying, and I tried to say Jesus, and all that came out was garble. And I tried again, and it was just garble. And I just kept praying, and I wanted to say out loud, "Jesus, help me." And I finally did it, and all the beings just dissipated into the air to little triangle shapes and then down into some fog that had somehow come into the bedroom. And then I reached over and was able to move, and I woke up Coleman. And after comforting me, he said, well, maybe this was just a bad dream. Well, that irritated me.
Yeah, it never goes over well.
Because I knew it was real. And he
we didn't really know what to do with that. You guys didn't really know what to do with that experience for a long time until Dad gave you a book that we were
about 15 years later.
15 years later, Dad was working in television, and he said, "Hey, I found this weird book. Would you
alien abductions?
would you read this and see if there's a TV show here?"
Yes.
So it was Abduction by John Mack.
So I started reading this book, and I thought, my goodness, this sounds just like my experience.
That's what I'm thinking the whole time you're telling it.
Yeah, trying to say the same. They're all saying the same thing.
Yeah.
And then at the same time that I was reading that book, I was reading another book called Demon Experience in a Foreign Land by
Demon Experiences in Many Lands.
In Many Lands. And it was published by Moody Bible Institute in 1960. And it was about these missionaries that had gone overseas, and they were starting to have these experiences with themselves and their new converts, and they didn't quite know what to do with them because
well, Moody at the time was
the church.
The Moody at the time and the church at the time in the United States in that period really didn't believe in the supernatural and kind of had pushed demon possession to the side, especially in the evangelical church back then. It wasn't really part of their.
He wrote a few books, because I think I read one of his books many years ago. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It wasn't that one though.
So what happened was these missionaries began going out and running into demon possessed people.
Right.
And and then they literally have to go and learn how to cast them out, because they'd never studied this in any of their
They all thought that this was for just biblical times.
Right.
And the experiences that they were having with the demon possession were very similar to the experiences I was reading about in John Mack's book. So I kind of started thinking about this, and in his book, none of the people ever asked God or Jesus or anyone.
In John Mack's book.
In John Mack's book.
Yeah, in John Mack's book, they never asked Jesus to help them. And I wondered, am I the only person that's had an abduction experience where I was able to stop it because I used the name of Jesus? And I went on the internet to start researching. And I found an article in Florida Today newspaper. It was written about a man who had a similar experience to mine. He wasn't a Christian, but he asked Jesus to help him. And the robed beings left him alone after that. And so I also, in this article, I found the name of Joe Jordan, who was a MUFON investigator, yeah. And he had been he was a MUFON investigator, and he also worked at NASA in development and engineering. So he's a very bright man. And I talked to him, and he was very upset that no one was mentioning that you could do this in any of the MUFON areas that he knew of. So he went to the MUFON areas and different organizations and asked, have you ever had any of this happen? Has anybody stopped a abduction by using the calling on God or the name of Jesus? And they said, oh yeah, lots, but people already think we're crazy if we added that to it.
That seems to be the crux of the. But I always never understand. There's a number of factors in the paranormal where they leave stuff out because they're like, well, it already seems crazy enough. You're telling your experience, what I think of is that I've had many abductees on the show in 10 years, and some that have become good friends, like Terry Lovelace. I've had on, and me and him bonded over the fact that my shadow person demonic experience is very similar to his abduction experience. Now, his are way crazier than my stuff, but it's a very similar feeling, at least. And mine was stopped by saying, you know, humbling myself before God. I didn't say Jesus or anything like that, but I did call out to God, and I was saved. Terry, I don't know. I think he's called out to God and everything. It didn't matter. They took him. Some people have had mixed results, but there are definitely people who have had this experience like you, who have said Jesus in the name of Jesus or in God's name, and they've gone away. It's been reported countless times.
Yeah. Well, and that's, so when that happened, that's when they really began. They were able to, with John Mack's book, they were able to put it in a context,
Yeah, because after it happened, we just never talked about it again because we didn't have any place to put it.
Context. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
No, I totally get it. I totally understand that. And, you wonder, I mean, how many people have that experience you have? They don't tell a soul ever about it. Because they're going to look at them, they're crazy or that. How many people? My shadow person experience that I had, this scene attacked me. It levitated me up off my bed and threw me down. I had a point in my life when I was in my, the first few years of being married to my wife. She had this childhood friend. He drove me nuts, this guy. But he straight up called me a liar when he said, what happened to you? Why you believe in this stuff? And I told him my most paranormal experience. And I've had a lot ever since I was a kid. And I tell him this whole shadow person. He goes, you're a liar. It's at that point I said, I don't care. I just don't care what anybody thinks anymore. And it's crazy how we self-censor ourselves in the paranormal community because we don't want to either to the skeptics who I don't care what you say aren't going to believe you anyways. You're trying to keep it as not too crazy for them, or you're trying to box it into somebody else's perceived perception of beliefs. And when we got to just let go of that. We got to talk about, you had this experience. This was real to you. And you said, in the name of Jesus, and they've gone. Let's talk about that. Why, there's something there. And why not? Why not include this in all these experiences? It's a piece of data we need to know.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You want to come back?
I guess so. She's stealing the show for you, Coleman. It was really nice meeting you.
Yeah, so that really, so when they taught that Bible study together, and that was really the basis for the first season of Patterns of Supernatural Phenomena. And a lot of that stuff was pulled straight out of there. And I was actually thinking about this show when I was thinking about the show tonight. I was like, we really need to look back through that stuff and see if there's anything we've missed from that Bible study. Because I'm sure, as you know, trying to generate, content and ideas is a constant challenge.
You talk about hard work. I have Paranormal Roundtable, is a great YouTube channel. They do a lot of videos every week. He does live streams. I feel I don't do any hard work. I do a live stream on Sunday night and let you guys talk. I just get to listen and join in and interrupt. I really don't do a lot of hard work. I'm very lazy. But you guys put together really quality episodes and topics and research. I don't do any of that. You guys do hard work. That's what I'll call it out there. So I really want people to see this channel. Now you do have a trailer for it. We're going to be coming up to a commercial break. Do you guys want to show the trailer before the commercial break?
Sure, let's do it. I'm excited about this. I've worked on it. Now it does use AI.
I'd love to talk to you guys about that being in Hollywood. I would love to talk to you. If you saw my World Wide Web of Weird with the Google video.
Yes. Oh yeah, in fact, I'm going to be signing up for it tomorrow because we're working on a section is where we came out of, right?
Yeah.
So we've been for the past 6 months, we've been working on a presentation of a TV series, and I've been using Kling AI to kind of craft this thing with my dad telling the story. So I've got 3 minutes left. The stuff is not easy to work with, you know. People put these things up and it looks amazing, but they're just out of context clips. You try to do a scene of two guys talking while having tacos. That's really hard.
Yeah, you're telling a story.
It's a lot of weird prompts.
Yeah,
it's a lot of prompts. All right, well, let's play the preview before we run out of time because we've got about 5 minutes to commercial break.
Okay.
Let's play that, and we can get into that when we get back from commercial break here. So, all right. Hopefully, this is my first time using this feature like this way, so hopefully this works good here. All right. Well, why did it take everybody else away from the stage? There we go. I'm gonna get rid of this. Hold on. Remove from the studio. All right.
Looks great.
There you go.
What did you think of it? Did you like it?
I love it.
Why is it not giving me back? There we go.
There we go.
I'm like it wasn't switching right.
Ooh,
yes.
The lady's face was in the mist. That was a trip. And then that talking, what was that? The Rock started talking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I was pointing out to my son though. I was like just saying like how all these drug commercials, all this stuff you see are not going to be real people. Just give it one more year, less than.
Yep.
But
yeah, well, the sound design on this was done by a real person. That was done by Wellborn Farine, and the music was done by our friend Jim Covell. So, you know, we're as much as these things advance, we really do prefer working with real people.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have people like Wellborn and Jim supplying their creative talents to this kind of thing. So.
Well, that's the thing. Creative. All AI can do though is copy, mimic, steal. Create from our ideas and consciousness. That's a whole subject I'd love to get into. Like I see this taking over the industry and changing it dramatically, of course. But I also think it's going to get really crappy. You thought movies were bad? Just wait.
Yeah, I mean, it provides interesting tools for people that are in our position, you know, where we don't have access to Hollywood anymore, to try to create things that but you know, to build a narrative using AI, it hasn't been easy. I'm going to try VO3 Flow tomorrow.
I want to hear from you. on that. Keep in touch.
And
I'll
send you when I get this when we get this presentation done for Sanctum of Shadows. I'll let you take a look at it. I mean, we're excited about the story, and that's really what matters. Because you know, my dad tells the story, and then we enhance that with AI.
And the weird thing is, this is just a little bit of weirdness.
Oh, that's what we love.
And we're known for weirdness now, right?
That's true.
Yeah. I've written many scripts. I've written many stories. I've written several novels. I've done a lot of storytelling. I've created a lot of stories. I've never had one come to me the way this one did. Because the beginning of this story came in a dream.
Oh, that's some of the best
stuff. I woke
stuff.
up and it was like the story had begun, and then it begins to tell itself, as you begin to work on that story. But the beginning of it was flat out a dream.
Yeah.
And I've never had that happen before.
I dreamt of this show and guests before I ever had them on the show, before I was doing the show.
Have you really had precognitive dreams like that?
I've had a lot over my life.
A lot of precognitive dreams?
Yes.
So you
can ask my wife. She's been witness to it.
Going to happen.
Yes. This is why I've always been interested in time. I've also changed things, too. It's also made me change things. I have a lot of stories on that. So I've always been interested in time. We got to go to commercial break. See? So this is going to be hard. We got to go to commercial break, guys. When we come back, we're going to open up the phone lines, guys. You can join us for this conversation. You saw all those topics they're covering on their channel. Patterns of supernatural phenomenon, Thorncrown Studios. There's their YouTube channel. But you see all those topics? Call in tonight. What are you interested in talking about with these guys? Do you believe we're in the end times and the Antichrist? That's some interesting topic stuff you could get into. There's a lot of topics in there. Council of Nine. What do you want to get into tonight? We can get into anything. It's Paranormal Soup with Coleman Luck and Cole Luck III when we come back from the short commercial break.
Conducting an experiment into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Do you wish for more paranormal and spiritual content? The Paranormal Chronicles magazine is a free digital magazine crammed with the very best in paranormal and spiritual articles and features. No sign-up, no subscription, just free reading and knowledge for you. Read today at www.paranormalchronicles.com/magazine.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Paranation Magazine is a new paranormal magazine based out of Denver, Colorado. Our goal isn't just to give you the best paranormal content out there, but to promote paranormal unity. We're doing this by giving everyone an opportunity to tell their stories and to share their experiences. For more information, follow us on Facebook at Paranation Magazine and soon, paranationmag.com.
I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is the extraordinary travels of a young, alone, and broke psychic in the highly anticipated new book from internationally renowned psychic, medium, medical intuitive, and best-selling author Sherry Dillard. Critics have described I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like as an engrossing memoir, an empowering story of how a broken girl came to accept her psychic gift, a refreshing and fun read. I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is available through Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and wherever books are sold.
wrote Spirits of the Dead with a pen dipped in warm blood. You will see the ultimate in terror with this important all-star cast. Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda in Edgar Allan Poe's Spirits of the Dead. Only Poe's demented genius could bring to the screen such horror and evil. Spirits of the Dead stars Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda. Directed by three masters of the cinema, Federico Fellini, Louis Malle, and Roger Vadim. Spirits of the Dead is an adventure in terror beyond your wildest nightmares. Spirits of the Dead in color is rated R.
The city is headed for a disaster of biblical proportion.
What do you mean, biblical?
What he means is Old Testament, Mr. Mayor. Real wrath of God type stuff.
Exactly.
Fire and brimstone coming down from the skies. Rivers and seas boiling.
40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes.
The dead rising from the grave. Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID 00JBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guest is Coleman Luck and his son Cole Luck III. We're talking about their show, Patterns of the Supernatural Phenomenon. You can find it on YouTube under Thorncrown Studios. We have the links in the show tonight. For those listening on the radio, though, seriously, you got to check that out. You can just type in Thorncrown Studios. Should find it on YouTube. They got a lot of episodes from the first two seasons, and they got a third season coming out. I highly recommend it. If you couldn't see it if you were on the radio, the trailer, I know. But there's a lot of great topics these guys are covering here that we would love to talk about. And if you would love to talk about it, if you'd like to talk about these guys, Cole Luck and Cole Luck III, call into the show. Phone lines are now open. Join the conversation. Let's go ahead and get back to our guests. Thank you guys for staying with us this late tonight, and it's an honor to have you guys with us. Like I said, people got to check out your YouTube channel and see these episodes you guys have up. That's how I found you. Got me sucked into many different topics and episodes tonight that I think we could get into. Any of those topics we showed in your reel. We probably talked about at some point in this show.
Yeah, those are all coming up. We should point out, I think we should make it clear. We are really storytellers and entertainers. We're not like investigator. We're not like scholars or theologians. We don't have any sort of, official religious, title or background. We really do come out of, storytelling in Hollywood. And so that informs a lot of how we try to create our show. We're pretty, serious about the research we do for it.
You're right. I think you guys do great research for what you do. We do have a caller already, if you guys want to take a call.
Wow.
All right, let's see what we got. Who do we got on the line?
This is Dave Porter.
Hello, Dave. Thanks for calling in, bud.
Yes, sir. Coleman, it's your buddy on Facebook.
Yes, I know who you are.
Man,
Dave Porter is a professional boxer.
Really?
Yes.
Well, unsanctioned. I'm too old to pass the physical.
Well, thank you for calling in.
Well, mister, I want to say you have a wonderful show, and I just want to thank Coleman for all he's done in my life. He doesn't really know, but I'm a big fan of all he does, and he's a Christian man, and that really, really touches my heart. I just wanted to say hello to him, and y'all keep up that good work. I don't want to hog up all your time, But Cole, it's been an honor, and Cole Jr. honor, and tell your wife I'll be praying for her, and she was excellent tonight. I thought it was a wonderful story. And just know that I'll say a prayer for y'all, and I love the Thorncrown series, and y'all just keep it up, and maybe one day I'll see you. Take care, and God bless each and every one.
You too. Thank you, Dave.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
Testimonial. Your wife did an excellent job, by the way.
He's an old friend of my dad's.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and he has been a professional boxer. I mean, I couldn't begin to do what he's done with his life. So
yeah, you're gonna get me in a ring.
Oh,
I've wasted my time with my sons watching that horrible Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight. Oh my god.
Oh, that was.
It's sad because I'm a fan of boxing. Like everybody's into mixed martial arts, which I love martial arts. But I'm like, I said, like, I don't like to watch people like brutalize each other, but my grandfather was a boxer. So I kind of got into boxing. So it was like nice to see all the excitement for boxing, again. And then just to watch Jake Paul just crap upon it all.
Yeah. Dave Porter's been a trainer. He has worked with a lot of boxers over many years. So
I enjoy that. I don't like a lot of like watching like the MMA, like it just gets so brutal, and I enjoy martial arts and all that stuff, but like I just don't like it. But boxing, something that's like, I don't know, I can get into boxing, I can watch boxing, I like
science.
it.
It's a beautiful
thing,
thing,
right?
An exciting career he's had.
Yeah. We do have another phone call if you're ready for another one.
Okay. I didn't think.
Who do we got on the line?
Hey, it's Adrian from Connecticut.
Adrian, I haven't heard from you in a while. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing okay, and a belated happy 10th anniversary. I fell asleep last Sunday, so I missed the show, so sorry.
You know what? I never blame a single person. If I wasn't doing this show, I'd be asleep on Sunday night, too.
Yeah, I didn't have my nap, so, that was detrimental. So, Coleman, nice to meet you. When you were showing that trailer, something caught my eye, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think I saw something that said "the beautiful side of evil."
I saw that.
Mm-hmm. Was that one of the things I saw flash across the screen?
Yeah, and the image I used was one that we made with Midjourney of an angel with like an outer shell of an angel with a demon kind of inside, or some sort of evil creature inside, right? And that we're going to be looking at a work with that title. It's become a bit controversial, but there's a book called The Beautiful Side of Evil, and it examines some of the similar things we've talked about with the ideas of perfect possession, the gifts of darkness, things that are given in a sense to those who serve evil. Because people don't choose to serve evil just because they're evil. They have needs and desires and wants like the rest of us. It's just a matter of how they go about getting them.
And what we're going to be focusing on in that particular episode is going to be healing, supernatural healing.
That's awesome. That's going to get deep. Because it made me think. When I was little, I had told my parents, I must have been about 9 or 10 years old, because the house we lived in had a demon and no one would believe me and all that. But I said, hell is here. And they got really mad at me. And then I just thought, now, listening to you guys, there's different levels of heaven, I've heard. Now, do you think there's different levels of hell?
Yes. I believe there are. Jesus himself talked about at a certain point, some people are going to be punished more than others. And, we don't know exactly what all that means. But I believe there are.
Yeah. Because I'm reading some books by another author, and she had said that the only access to our 3D plane here is through portals. Like, they don't have easy access. They either have to get together and create a portal, or there's already some that are available and they use. Because what made me think of that is with all this Hollywood stuff and the evil being utilized, what is the origin? I mean, there's a lot of power and it works, but what has manifested? Like one single thing, or do you think it is a conglomerate of energies that boosts these Hollywood favors?
I take a New Testament view of these things, and the Apostle Paul wrote about the idea that there are different levels, different powers, and different places. I look at it this way. I mean, I'm an old Army guy. I spent 3 years in the military, and what you have when you have an army, you have a wide range of people within that army. You have a lot of what we would call ground troops, and then you have higher levels of responsibility and power. Now, that's true in a human army. I believe it's exactly true in the supernatural war that we are in and the enemy that we are fighting against. And he has beings all over the place, millions of them. I believe that we are living in a demon-possessed world. And and that means that we have to be much more aware of what our strengths are and what side we're on.
Yeah, and I don't. I don't want to, be reductive and say we're not the kind of people that say everything is demon. No. We may say it's demonic, but demons are a specific type of those ranks. Those are a type of foot soldier.
That's right.
And you have different, then you have different creatures, including fallen angels, and we see manifestations of different types of creatures that are clearly not demons or directly necessarily fallen angels that are under the control of darkness. So there's a wide range. What people experience is not all demonic deception. It may be demonic in nature, but the nature of the enemy is a lot more problematic and dangerous than I think most Christians are willing to admit.
And most people aren't, because I think most people are simply living in the middle of a battlefield, and they're unwilling to accept the fact that there is this war going on. Here we are.
And that's a weakness too.
Yeah,
terrible.
Yeah, it makes us weak. And what's happening is insidious, because they are tearing apart the fabric of faith, family unit, and everything that makes humanity strong. And I think it makes it easier for them to access the souls of people when they take away what we were gifted from God in the first place. It's easy to be a jerk. You have to practice being good, it seems. And when you lose that talent, boy, they just take a bite right out of you.
Yeah.
It doesn't, they're opportunists, and the opportunities are being created in so many different ways in society today.
Clearly, I am a really ancient dude. So at this stage of my life, I have lived through a lot of phases in this country. And I can tell you that over the years that I have lived, I have seen this country, the United States, become more and more, I don't know how else to put it, a demon-possessed nation. You have people who are absolutely raging all the time. They rage on the internet. They rage when they're driving cars. There are people who just get out and scream at people. There are people on airplanes every day.
No, there's people that go out and just shoot and kill people every day.
Yes.
That's that right there.
Yes.
Your evil's in front of you every day on the news.
You guys are young, relative to me. And it wasn't.
Well, I'm
always
66.
This
I'm not.
Pardon me?
She's 66.
66?
No, I'm 66.
Oh, you're 66.
I've got some.
You're doing good, Andrew.
Things under my belt.
Hey, listen, he's 79. So,
he's got your beat.
That's right. 66 looks like.
As long as there's somebody older than me, I'm still a kid.
Well, Adrian, thank you for calling in.
Before she goes,
thanks. It was great talking.
Hold on one second, Adrian.
Good night,
Cole. Hold on.
Hold on. Okay.
I was going to address one thing about portals, and this comes up a lot. And it's not that we don't believe in portals or that, but the idea that there has to be some sort of invocation done by like Parsons and Hubbard back in the day and, whoever, in which something takes place, some sort of magical invocation that allows evil in. Again, we go back to the New Testament and where it says that, Satan is the prince of the power of the air. He's already in. He's already here.
That's right.
Now, what he does then is he creates trauma in people, and the portals then are the damages, the rips in our soul that tear down our spiritual defenses. So I don't necessarily think that portals don't exist. That's not what I'm saying. I think that, and we're going to be getting into that with a little bit with Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah, and I would add this too. When you're an area of the world where incredible evil has been done.
Yes.
For instance, we family a number of years ago went to Chichen Itza, and we were there and we saw the pyramid and we could look up at it, where humans were sacrificed and blood flowed down those steps.
I've always wanted to visit.
It was like a river. When you get into certain areas that have been truly dedicated to the powers of darkness, and they have been deeply involved. I think there are areas where they're more involved,
much more powerful.
Yes, they're much more present in some of those places. But that's where you can go to some of those, and unless you have the right protection with you through the power of Jesus Christ, and there's no other way to say it, they'll be happy to sort of tag along with you when you leave.
I believe that. It's a law of attraction.
Well, that's what I went through in my experience. I went to a place I didn't know at the time. A bunch of people, 3 children had died, and another kid had died, and another guy died. I didn't know any of those people that died there, and that's where I attracted the thing that followed me home. These things are attracted to places where tragedy happens, death. Think about all the battlefields out there where thousands and thousands and thousands of people died, and the blood was shed on that ground. It's scarred.
That's right.
Yep. Yeah, we had a friend.
You feel it at Gettysburg.
Which we're going to be, that's a different kind of trauma. That's a mass trauma. It's not, we're going to be talking about, just as evil, but the effects are a little different.
I'll let you go, Adrian. Though, thank you for calling.
Okay, hey, thanks. It was a joy talking to you. All
right, have a good night.
Thanks for calling.
Yeah, well, that whole area, is fascinating to me because of my experience. What I had follow me, it's fascinating to this day. Is what is this thing that tried to push me to the brink, tried to make me do something horrible to myself or others? It was totally evil. Came from this place, a train tracks, where these kids were ripped apart 30 years before I stepped foot there. What is that? What is that entity? You talk about portals or things. I invited this thing in because I challenged it because I was a 18-year-old cocky kid being stupid. I invited it in by doing that.
Yeah.
That was just an encounter on some train tracks. I mean, how many of these things are lurking around? Portals. I've been into houses where people have killed themselves, and I knew it before anybody told me because I could feel it.
Yeah, well, the Bible says the blood cries out from the ground, and that the earth groans. So, what we're doing in a lot of these cases, we've inflicted trauma on the earth. And I know that may sound new agey for someone like me as an evangelical Christian, but that's really what's happening. And, so the echoes of that evil attract evil,
That's what I mean. There's something about it. I mean, even I've seen cases where people have had a death of a loved one in the home. And then things start to happen. And I don't think it's their loved one anymore. They might have an incident after they something with the loved one happen, but then all dark things start to happen. It's like the death in the home even created a doorway that was left open sometimes.
Well, also, you can do things that you think are just innocuous, harmless.
Right.
They can, those things that you do can invite these beings in. I mean, I've got so many cases. We have so many cases that we've studied about people who have been dealing with demon possession on the most serious level. And you go in and you ask the people who are doing the exorcisms, usually if they know what they're doing, will ask the question, what do you have in your house, that has invited some of these things in? What have you done? Have you been playing with a Ouija board? Well, there are a lot of people who have brought that stuff in.
Oh yeah, that's the classic one. You're gonna have a bad time.
You've got Dr. Stephen Greer and his crew. They invite these beings from above. They think they're just dealing with extraterrestrials.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. Because we brought this up on the show. We've talked about, News Nation recently covered heavily the Jacob Barber case. And this is supposedly right. Okay, so he's a former military pilot, and he's saying, they had the big egg UFO that he's picking up and talking about they're telepathically communicating with me. And now he has this Skywatchers group where they're trying to telepathically, they're using these people that are supposed to be worked with the government, right? And they were telepathically communicating with the aliens. We could shoot their ships down that way, right? But now they're doing it and then sending up helicopters and chasing them and getting closer pictures. But what I brought up on the show is okay, is this a setup? I think Tim Burchett even kind of really brought this up, the congressman. Are we trying to tell people they should be telepathically communicating with these things to bring the ships closer? Because that's what some people are going to do and take. And I wouldn't do that. I
probably wouldn't do that either. This is such a huge area. I'm trying to think about how to go into it. I suppose, I do have a crazy theory that we've talked about the whole idea of crashed ships. And to begin with, is that the entire thing is a red herring. And I don't mean that there aren't crashed ships that have been captured by the government. I mean that, everything that I have learned, and, when you look at Keel or, Jacques Vallée, the basic behind the scene, understanding of what these beings are deceptive. So, coming out of Hollywood, I've seen Hollywood make amazing things that look incredible. Like up close, you can't even tell sometimes that this is not a real thing. So I was sitting there thinking about the crash ships and Roswell and whatnot and thinking, are these guys really that bad a pilot, or what could possibly cause something like this to crash? And then I thought, what if the entire crash was a deception? What if the entire ship, because now you're familiar with Bob Lazar, right?
Of course.
And so what he would talk about is how, they're trying to back engineer these ships. I tell you right now today, Hollywood could make a spaceship that looked like it worked. It absolutely looked like it worked. Even on the inside, it looked like it should work. They could take it up and drop it. So the only place it could have come from was space. And then suddenly you've got a crashed ship, but one that could never, ever actually work. And Lazar says, okay, well, we'd always hit this point. We always, hit this ceiling where we couldn't ever figure anything else out. So I look at the thing and go, the entire ship is a deception. It's been given there to distract, people, because, the UFO community gets very wrapped up in disclosure and what the government knows. I don't think the government knows very much at all. I don't think I think the reason that they're hiding it is not because, they've got these huge secrets they want to keep. It's that they have no idea what's going on and they don't want to admit it. Now, I know I'm not the only person to say that, right?
No.
But
I've said it.
Yeah.
I said that's a big part of it.
What they don't want to deal with, all this discussion is such a distraction about the hardware. They don't want to deal with the idea of abduction. They don't want to deal with this.
You don't see that coming up in the. Well, do you see it coming up in the congressional hearings or them talking about it? No.
Nope. Most of these guys like Grush, Elizondo, they're not interested in talking about that aspect of it. And I think there's a couple reasons for it. One is that they're trying to be taken seriously, and it's.
I know they talk to abductees. I know Elizondo does, because I know some abductees that have talked to Elizondo.
Yeah, but they don't really. They don't make it part of their public presentation because I think they're afraid that they're not going to get taken seriously. They're already so far out on the edge with the UFO part that if they start
that
talking
self-censoring.
Yeah, exactly right. What we talked about earlier. So
but at the same time, you got Luis Elizondo going on. I try to be nice about this guy, but he goes on doing one of these congressional hearings, and he shows a UFO picture and he's done this at other things that people pay to go see him talk. That is completely not a fake. It's just like it's basically a photo of a field and looks like a big round UFO, but it's really just a circular pattern on the ground doubled. and completely debunked and not real. But it's like you're going to go on stage, you're going to be looked at as somebody who worked with the government and be a UFO expert, and you're going to show that.
Yeah, and I have a really hard time with especially since everything that came out about Richard Doty, trusting anyone really from that kind of background. I mean, we already don't really trust the government that much, but we also, we know a lot about the government, and we've got people that have, that are near and dear to us that are, closely involved in that kind of thing. Not UFOs, but the government.
Yeah.
So it's. Go ahead.
I'll put to you this theory I gave a long time ago. I don't know if I did it on the show. I've definitely talked about this theory with others on the Bob Lazar as a possibility. Now, I believe Bob Lazar probably was there, saw ships that probably were alien and crap, but there's this possibility, because this is how I look at things. My perspective is to look at different possibilities. Who am I to know which one's right? I am not. I don't know. But I think about them all. And one of the possibilities is, hey, what a great wag the dog for your enemies. If you can convince the public and the world that you're hiding secret UFO technology. Because I'll tell you what, when Bob Lazar went into that, and I'm fascinated. I've listened to a lot of Bob Lazar interviews. I talked to John Lear those two were friends before he got a job at Area 51. They actually had a conversation about him going to get a job at Area 51 to see if he could find out any information. You go back to the old interviews. If you listen to all the Art Bell's great archive for this stuff, it's there. You'll hear him talk.
I lived on Art Bell in the 90s.
Right? They talk. You can find it. They talk about it. That there was some pre-planning to Bob Lazar's whole endeavor. It wasn't just him. He's going to go get he got this job, right? Because he worked at Los Alamos, and what he knew, Hal Puthoff. Was that who it was that he knew?
Puthoff, yes.
Yeah, and you see Puthoff's. I can't say his name. Hal Puthoff.
His
fingerprints. You can see his fingerprints around this whole disclosure thing now, right?
Yeah, and he goes and gets so interwoven.
Right. You see his fingerprints now. He's part of that To the Stars thing. He did that. Remember, they got him up on stage. I just saw him with another interview just recently about this disclosure. I'm like, you see his fingerprints. He's the one that brought Bob Lazar in. What if you wanted to fake to your enemies so they fear you that you have super alien technology? And you bring some guy in that was already friends with a guy like John Lear going on interviews and talking about UFOs, who tries to sneak his way in. And you already know it because you're the government, right?
Yeah.
And you let him in the program and you give him the show of a lifetime. The Hollywood show, right? A wag the dog.
Hollywood show. Yeah.
I consider that as a probable possibility. Not that I believe that's the possibility, but that is a possibility.
And we're pretty close on that view, except my view is that perhaps that the beings that are passing themselves off as aliens are the ones that are providing the show. And then, but it's
true
really
too.
It's 6 of one, a half a dozen of the other. I don't have enough confidence in the government to be able to actually pull off the level of deception that.
Right, and that's the same thing with my whole thing with the whole every moon landing was fake from the beginning. Like, I have friends that are really, we've argued about this. I believe at some point we did go to the moon. I think we went to the moon the first time and we didn't go back and faked a bunch after. But to pull off this stuff, our government's not that good, sadly. At hiding stuff. And then people are like, well, that's why the moon landing's fake. It got out. I'm like, I don't know. There's definitely stuff, but they're not as great as you think they are at hiding stuff, too.
My greatest concern is, where is all of this going?
Yes.
Right.
Where is all of this going? And then you get down, as soon as you get into that topic, you have to confront David Jacobs' work. And there are people who are looking at it and have looked at this, all that's happening, the abductions, the things that are done to people when they are abducted, all of it. And Jacobs looks at it and says, this is terrifying. They have a desire to destroy the human race and make us all slaves. Now, he doesn't look at it from any kind of religious perspective. He's not a religious person. But this does fit in a strange way with the predictions of what will happen toward the days of the end. And I believe that we are moving toward those days. And look, I'm an old hard ass about stuff. I've been around too much. I've seen too much garbage. I've said too much garbage, let's face it. But I do, studying all of this, studying it for years and years, I think there's a lot of evidence that we are moving rapidly toward the great confrontation that is expected and predicted in the New Testament. And that is where we are most concerned with saying, what side are you on? What you need to be on is the side of the King of Kings, and that is Jesus Christ himself. And that changes your life. I've said many times, I'll tell you something, but for the work of Jesus in my life, I probably would have been one of the worst men who ever entered Hollywood. I was writing The Equalizer. I took a great joy in writing evil characters that could be destroyed in the most creative ways. I love the idea of doing that. And I wish that I could do it in reality. If only I
It's
could
like
just do
Dexter.
anybody who gets in my way, I will destroy you. I will do it in a way that is creative, has finesse.
Right.
That's who I am. But thank God for the work that he's done in my life. He transformed me and he taught me a lot of things about the nature of what leadership is. That you're not here to serve yourself. That is one of the great mistakes that people make. Why are you in this world? Just to feel good? Just to have a good life?
Well,
If that's all there is, you're going to be disappointed. I can tell you, I know a lot of people who are old and they're bitter, they're angry because some of them have achieved the greatest things in the world. They've made all the money they could make. They've had success on every level. It's not enough. And that's where it comes in to say, I'm not here to serve myself. I'm not here to, when I went into Hollywood, I wasn't there to serve myself. I was there as what I viewed very strongly. I'm there to serve the King of Kings, to show his love to people and try to tell his stories. And that's what I spent my life doing.
Yeah, and it really drives the vision for our show is, basically to say, listen, the enemy is not other people. Humanity is the prize that God loves. There is no person on this earth who is our enemy. They are all loved by God. They can all be saved through Jesus Christ. And our job is to reach all of them. The enemy is trying to destroy humanity, all of us.
Yep.
So we have an enemy that is implacable, devastating, and incredibly powerful. And our job is to go out there one person at a time on the battlefield, realizing that we are on a battlefield and bring the love of Jesus. We're not to use the kind of weapons that the enemy uses. We're not to use anger. We're not to use hatred. We're not to use war and violence whenever possible. That's part of what drives our show is to say, listen, this is a real thing that's happening. And even the supernatural paranormal things are real and they are happening to people and they are from the enemy. But it is our job to go out and help and to lead, to share Jesus Christ, to save humanity.
What this is about is setting people free.
Exactly right.
And I can say that, I mean, we've spending all the years we spent in Hollywood, we know so many people who are so successful, but they are absolutely enslaved. And you see what happens I look at some poor individual like Matthew Perry. I feel so sorry for that man who had everything. He had it all. He had money, he had fame, he had the career that people would die for. Wasn't enough. I can tell you from personal experience that the greatest joy is knowing that Jesus Christ is real and he's the one that's the center of my life. And that changes everything. Does it make me into a beautifully sweet, nice person? I wish it did.
No, it doesn't.
What?
Well, yeah, but you see, you see the society we live in. So, when people know me, I have a faith in God, but I'm not a Christian. I don't I follow the same tenets you guys do, but I respect what you do because, at the same time, we're both people trying to seek truth from our different perspectives. And you seek it from the background as through Jesus Christ and the Bible, and I respect that. And I think people have to have these conversations, depending on what background you come from. I've had many friends that are very faithful Christians, and we've had a lot of great conversations. And some people don't want to do it. They don't want to talk. Everybody's stuck in their patagram or their bubble.
Yeah.
And we got to have these conversations. I think we see a lot of the same things. I see the problem with society. I see it right now. We have Instagram and TikTok, and everybody thinks their opinion is the most important opinion in the world. I was telling that to my wife about that. We were talking about Disney and the whole Snow White fiasco. I'm like, what that girl, the girl that that went off, that they blame Disney's lucky, right? Disney's lucky to have her, honestly, because they can just blame the whole problem on her, right? She's a dumb 20-year-old. I was a dumb 20-year-old. Weren't you all dumb 20-year-olds? And we just give a dumb 20-year-old a bunch of money, tell them they're famous, tell them they're important, give them all these things. They're going to say a lot of stupid things. Trust me. Because at 20 years old, you don't know crap. And if you keep telling them that they think they know crap, but that's the society we live in. It's all about me, me, me. Show me. Let's talk about me. Of course, here I am doing my own live channel, right? right. But,
there's a
I
little
do
bit of
I do it to connect.
there,
I do it to connect with people. It's not about me, even though I've been told in all my comments, like so many times I've been commented, let the guests talk, Jason. You talk too much about yourself. It's about me. But that is it. It is like, if you go to the satanic, and I've been yelled at because I said, I will have the conversation with you, and you guys might not like what I'm about to say because my Christian friends definitely smack me upside the head, but I will have somebody from the Church of Satan on here and we will talk. I will talk with anybody. I'll get their perspective. But I do know what I have known people in the Church of Satan. Their perspective, as far as I see it, is serve thyself.
Yeah.
And right away, I can tell you that's not what I believe in. I disagree with that fundamentally. Because you know what I serve? What I serve is my family. For me.
You have something greater that gives you,
See, what I've said, and I said when my children were growing up, I said, look, you know what I believe. Now you go out and prove whether it's true or not.
Exactly.
Because it's either totally true or it's totally not true. Go out and prove it for yourself. Do
Blind
the research,
faith is,
do the study. I believe this. I'll tell you, I've experienced this. I've seen it. There are people who started off as atheists and started off as all sorts of other belief systems. When they really start doing honest research into the nature of who Jesus Christ is, as he is presented in the New Testament, suddenly they totally change. One of the most famous ones like that is C.S. Lewis.
Yeah.
He started off as an atheist. He was an atheist.
Yeah.
He said, he was there to try to prove that his Christian friends were wrong. And what came out of it after he looked at all of it as a scholar, came out of it a very powerful believer in Jesus.
Of course, it helped that one of his Christian friends was Tolkien.
But that's
right. Don't mess on Tolkien.
They didn't always get along
either. But you see that? But you see that right there. You can have different beliefs. We can talk. We're all witnesses to what's happening in the world around us.
Yeah.
And who are you or who am I to tell anybody what to believe? Just like you told your children.
That's right.
That's how I raise my children because that's how my parents raised me. My mom's a Buddhist. My dad's into science, but they raised me to go out and search. They didn't discount any of my spiritual encounters or what I've had at all. Go out and discover for yourself.
But as you search, I say to people who are looking into these things, really be objective. Don't listen to the garbage that you hear from a lot of different people about Jesus. Get in there and read the New Testament for yourself. Get in there and understand the nature of where these documents came from. Understand the nature of the uniqueness of those first four Gospels. Because I will tell you, it was Lewis who said, those four Gospels, the way they are written is totally different than anything that was ever written during that period. We are so used to the idea of what we call reportorial style. I saw this, so I write it down and so forth. That was totally unknown in those days. These people were seeing something.
I want to say real quick, I just called somebody back that tried to call in. Let me see if I got him, because sometimes it hangs up on people, and sometimes I can get the call. This one, it hung up, so I called him back. Who do we got on the line? Anybody there? Hello? Well, sometimes calling them back works. Sometimes it goes to their voicemail. If you try calling in, I will try to catch it. Sometimes it blocks numbers, and sometimes it doesn't. So I don't know. Like Adrian calls in, I never have a problem. If Zuriana calls in, it wants to not let me take it. I don't know at the time. There's some of my callers I get. Sometimes it does that. So I don't know who was trying to call in. If the phone lines are open, guys. Call in. I will try to catch it. If it misses you, I will try to call you back. So just be ready for a call back. If it hangs up on you, I'll try to call you back. I don't know why it does that.
I saw someone saying they were trying to get the number.
Yeah, I did, and that's why I forgot to put the banner up. So it is up there. 219-230-4444 is the easiest one. 260-225-9419. The Skype IDs, it was trying to take a Skype call earlier, but now it's connected to Microsoft Teams, so I don't know how that's screwed things up now. Frickin' Microsoft. Bill Gates. Blame him.
Oh, you said it.
I said, oh no, I said thou should not be named Bill Gates. Oh, Lord Voldemort.
Well, with our show on patterns, we work really hard. One of the things I'm really proud about is that you know how the internet is stickler for facts. We have not had anyone find any factual research errors in the things we present. A lot of times people will say, "Okay, we don't agree with your conclusions," or "We don't like your interpretations." But we're pretty rigorous on on how we present the facts, and so that's that comes out of
No, that's why I enjoyed
serious,
the channel.
yeah, and that comes out of our serious examination of Christianity as well. As we try to treat every subject fairly to really delve into the factual basis for what we're talking about. So
no, that's why I enjoy your channel. I mean, I might not agree with all your conclusions, but I still enjoy it. Sorry, I might not,
have you
but
seen
it
our
doesn't mean I
episode on
don't enjoy it.
reincarnation yet?
Yeah, I did. Like, I don't agree with it, but that's fine. That's fine. But that's the thing. We have to have these conversations. That's your perspective. I need to understand it. I could be wrong. You could be completely right. I'm willing to accept that. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, we couldn't do the show if we only read perspectives that we believed in.
Right.
I mean,
That's right.
We work with we not work with we read the sources of authors of many of whom we don't agree with. Some of whom are quite brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But like, you have to challenge yourself and open yourself up to somebody else's perspective. Who are you to know if you're right or not? I was trying to call into the show. All right. Whoever just texted that, I'm going to try to call you right now. I'm going to try to call you. Try to call you. I'm going to text them.
It's Guyla.
Who is it?
It's a friend of ours.
Oh, I'm trying to get you. I'm going to try to call you.
That's who was trying to get the number earlier too.
I'm calling it now. Just be ready to pick up. It says it's ringing. It's my cheap phone line system, guys. I don't have a real studio show with a call board, and I would love to have that. I have a cell phone. I have a cell phone hooked up to a line and mixing boards that's Jimmy rigged to work. All right. Who do we got on the line? Are you there? You hear us?
Yes, I'm here. I'm a friend of the Lucks. My name is Guyla, and I'm calling from Nebraska.
Hi, Guyla. Thank you for calling in. I'm so sorry. It hangs up on some people and some people doesn't. It's like I have my own built-in call screener somehow, right? I don't know, but it doesn't work very well. But thank you for picking up the call when I called you back.
My question is either for Coleman or Cole. As you guys know, I work in a ministry in a third world country where people are so aware, believers and non-believers, of the supernatural and the spiritual realm. Why do you think that the evangelical church in the United States has basically been quiet on this topic?
There's a number of reasons. I mean,
yes.
But besides being, obsessed with wealth, prosperity, and politics, I mean, the material world is all they think about at all.
That's right. The idea. I read a statistic back a month or so ago that somebody done a survey and discovered that 70% of American people who consider themselves Christians think that God wants them to be successful, and by that it means money, whatever they need, completely oriented toward the material or what's happening within the church, but it's within all of society. We are focused completely on what is here right now in front of us. We have no thought, and I'll tell you, get to the stage of life I am, you begin thinking more about what comes after this life. But they're not thinking about that. So why are they focused? Because they're focused on something else.
Yeah, and in places like where you work, which we won't name, which are dangerous, and the people there are still dealing with survival.
Yes.
Very much so. They don't have the kind of luxuries that we have in terms of healthcare, clean water, regular food, all sorts of things. And so the supernatural is much more a part of their life because survival is much more a part of their life. She has a tremendous ministry that she does amazing work.
But I have a feeling too that this may all be going to change in the future.
Yeah.
That what we consider to be our average normal life here may vanish away.
Certainly could.
And that will change people's perspective in many different directions. So that's There are a lot of reasons why they're not interested now. Maybe part of it too
I
is
get
that
you.
it's uncomfortable. People are afraid of these things.
Yeah, the idea that you can manifest things, or that this kind of the power of positive thinking, this began with Norman Vincent Peale, but really I was reading, was it Manly P. Hall and Dion Fortune, and what they were talking about is that manifestation for personal gain is basically black magic. And I was like, this, it was actually a New Dawn article that I was reading. And I was like, wow. I mean, these are like hardcore occultists going, if you're out there manifesting a destiny for yourself that's really about you, like these old school magicians are going, you're practicing black magic. I was kind of blown away by that.
So the secret, you're now if you read The Secret, remember everybody trying to get you to read The Secret, I never did. The Secret, have you read The Secret?
That's a while ago.
God, everybody, have you read The Secret? Well, that sounds like The Secret.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, oh my God. Don't get started.
Yeah, but I was quite stunned to see that statement, and they had another major occultist that was basically saying that anytime you're trying to manifest for personal gain, you're practicing black magic.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know if that answers your question, Gyla, but
well, it doesn't. I so appreciate the platform you guys have and what you are doing, because it's so needed. And my prayer is that people really wake up to perceive the hour we're living in and really what the stakes are. And one thing about it, I always appreciate that you always talk about the kingdom, because there really are just two kingdoms.
That's right.
And you both have worked in Hollywood and know the reality of that. And I just love and I appreciate your entire family. So I'm going to sign off now, but thank you for all that you do.
We love you too, Gyla.
You bet.
Thank you, Gyla, for
Bye-bye.
calling in. Yeah, see, there's like the whole perspective of what we're in society right now. Like, if you look where we're heading, transhumanism, universal basic income, what did Bill Gates say? We're going to work 2 days a week. There's not going to be any jobs for anybody. It'll be for your own personal, development, discovery. It's all about you.
Yeah.
Yes, but at the same time, and we're all going to be connected through chips in our brains, and that future to myself is scary. No.
Elon has a little chip for you.
Right.
I mean, the supervillain level, of having a satellite network and building a brain implant chip.
What a combination.
I mean, does no one see that? I mean, it's like...
Well, so in the defense of that, there are things with that technology you could help somebody see again.
Yeah.
You could help somebody walk again. There are good things.
Yeah.
Just like with any
beautiful
technology.
side of evil.
Just like beautiful side, just like nuclear power. Nuclear power, you can have power and power things, or you could blow people up.
Every tool we have created can be used for good or evil, and that includes.
Here we are on the internet.
Yeah,
we're talking
exactly.
right now.
Yeah, so people, I saw some Christians saying, well, should I not use Starlink? And I'm like, use Starlink if it's the only thing that's available to you. It's not a matter of, the tool itself is not evil,
unless it's Siri or.
Well, that's the thing. The tools will soon be ruling and telling you what to do.
Exactly right.
Right,
exactly
because that's what
right.
you're doing. I have my AI now managing my calendar and all that. I'm a hiring manager, and they want my AI thing to schedule all my interviews for me. I'm like, no.
Wow.
I ain't doing that. I ain't doing that. I'm going to call people and do the personal way. I don't want this thing to schedule people for me without talking to me. No, but that's where we're going. That's where we're going.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I work with it all day long when I'm working with generating visuals for story. And we don't use it at all for any writing.
But at the same time, that tool, like I said, it could be a horrible instrument for many ways. But at the same time, it can give storytellers who have no access to Hollywood or money to build a set or hire actors to tell a story. Just like the internet can get information out
that way.
And you should, because that's what I'm saying. It's the tool, and and it can. Like I call out AI on the show all the time. You know, what I'm saying I'm a huge star. I'm a Trekkie, man. Like I'm a sci-fi geek. You know, I'm a sci-fi geek. You know, what I'm saying like I love the technology. I have a little mad scientist in me. So I love these things at the same time. But at the same time, I'm trying to say, you know, scientists and governments, you should heed the warnings of these sci-fi films because they always have a bad time when they do the things you're talking about doing.
Yeah,
Black Mirror has like, 6 seasons of this stuff.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, I had a conversation with ChatGPT when I was working on something, and I was waiting for somebody to generate, and I asked it something about AI, and he said, "Well, why are you interested in this?" And I said, "Because I've always in Star Trek seen talking computers, and now I get to talk to one. You know, it's fascinating as a writer, you know, and as a kid."
If I had AI, I'd make it sound like what's her name, Gene Roddenberry's ex-wife that did the voice.
Oh yes, Major Barrett.
Thank you. Yeah. I would have her voice just talk to me back. Yeah, choose your AI voice. Oh, her.
They should. Boy, they could make a killing if they did that. They would make a huge amount of money if they did that.
I wonder if she licensed her voice. I wonder if she licensed her voice out before she had passed away to Star Trek. I think she did.
I think she did.
Because that's where all that is now in Hollywood. Because look what's happened to James Earl Jones after he passed, and with the rights and the licensing that he signed off to Disney. You know, what happens to these people? These actors are long gone, and now the rights to their voice and what they do, if we can completely recreate it and we can make a whole new Sean Connery James Bond. My James Bond fanboy would be like, "Yeah, do it!" You know. I mean, we could do all kinds of stuff. These are people.
I suspect that Jones probably signed a limited deal for Star Wars for Darth Vader.
I wondered.
You know, whereas, you know, the estates would have to make. I've heard you just talk about making a movie with Humphrey Bogart again.
Right.
You know,
these are the kind of things we're facing.
Yeah, his estate would have to. They'd have to make some sort of deal with his estate, I imagine.
Well, that's what we're getting in. But then eventually we get to the point where we don't have any new actors.
Did the Beatles?
Because the AI is you just replace them with this. You don't have to worry about this actor mouthing off to the media and saying something stupid that just tanks your whole movie.
Or locking themselves in the trailer, or forgetting their lines, or not being able to pronounce words. Or
you ever seen Tropic Thunder? That tells you everything you need to know about dealing with actors, right?
Yeah. You know, but the thing is, I really do love actors. You know, and I'm not just saying that facetiously.
Oh, I've known many.
You know, but I mean, even working with them. They'll do something on the set, you know, they'll take your words, you know, your script, and then they'll do something that I would never have thought of. And
creativity.
And that's, you know, that's one of the real joys of the old style of doing things.
That's right.
Is that there's something, they bring something unique and different, you know, and there's times when I've been behind the camera watching an actor perform and just had to like cover my mouth because I'm either shocked or I'm going to laugh. You know, because
that's why I say
something brilliant.
But it's what I'm saying is that these movies are going to come out. They're going to use this technology, and they're going to. You think movies are bad? That's what I keep saying. You think movies are bad now? Hold my beer, AI. Yeah,
you know those moments will be missing.
Well, it's like when I heard AIs try to recreate Kurt Cobain, Nirvana. AI creates a song. I'm like, yeah, it kind of sounds like Nirvana if like it had no soul.
I can't imagine anything Kurt Cobain would hate more.
Right. Right? I could feel him rolling over in his grave when I listened to it.
Yeah. I mean, this would just be like his worst absolute nightmare. You know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But it didn't. The only thing I'd go, Kurt, it's all right because it might sound like it could be a Nirvana song, but it sounds like a Nirvana song with no soul. Like completely, there's no feeling there. Like you could feel from one of your songs. It's all right, Kurt.
See, but what's going to really the future of this? The studio executives are going to be replaced with AI.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
Oh, yeah. You're right. I bet you can. But that's the thing. Then it's already bad enough with. I have plenty of beef with studio executives because they've canceled some of my favorite shows. Okay, so they're some of the stupidest people out there. I'm sorry, they gotta be for some of the shows they've canceled. You know what I'm saying? So I have no love for studio executives. They've canceled my favorite shows. God, now you replace them with AI, they'll give nothing a chance creatively. No. It's all going to be about statistically.
As much as we joke, there have been some tremendously great ones, and some and really good men and women, and that we've had the opportunity. to work with, or had been had wanted to work with us, or at various different points. And some of these people were quite brilliant, but those were rarities, I will admit.
Extreme
rarities, but they were there, and certainly helped our careers at different points. But it takes that certain spark as well on that level, and that appetite for risk, which is decreasing.
Risk. Right. That decreased a long time ago. You can tell how they just rehash everything. We need another John Wick movie. We need another Fast and Furious movie. How can we just degrade and ruin the Star Wars franchise more? Let's go for let's say we just got to keep beating these dead horses because we have nothing original because we don't want to take a risk on anything.
Yep.
Not a damn thing.
Think about the huge amount of risk that greenlighting Lord of the Rings was. A three picture deal back then based on a novel that was incredibly popular, yes, but it was such a technical difficulty. That executive took a massive risk on Peter Jackson, who had done what? The Frighteners?
I love that movie, though.
It was good, but would you look at that and go, yeah, he's the guy to direct Lord of the Rings?
No, but I love that movie. I would be like,
the reason I went on the Equalizer staff was because there was an executive at Universal, his name is Dick Lindheim, who was one of the official creators of the Equalizer. He was a senior VP at Universal. I was at Universal and I had virtually no experience in television writing. I'd done one short series, didn't last, wrote a few scripts. For some reason, he got the idea that I should be on the Equalizer show. And he put me on that series. And, and then he backed up my work all the way down the line. He passed away a number of years ago, but you do have there's some terrific people who've been there in the past.
Yeah. I don't see much now, but
no.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We're going to go to our last commercial break. We got about a half hour left, guys. We'll be right back. Just hang in there. We'll be back in a few minutes. We're going to go to our last commercial break with our guest tonight is Coleman Luck and Cole Luck III. We're talking about Patterns of a Supernatural Phenomenon is their series. They got their season 3 coming out. You can check it out at Thorncrown Studios on YouTube. We'll be back. Phone lines will be back open. If you try to call in, just wait till we come back from the commercial break because it'll hang up on you until we do. I've had a lot of great calls tonight. But we have a little more time if you do want to talk to these guests. They have so many different topics to cover. You got to check out their YouTube channel. We'll be right back.
Intercepted a transmission of unknown origin.
Transmission? Out here?
SOS.
Human.
Unknown.
Alien. Certificate X. Exclusive engagement at the Odeon Leicester Square. Now.
Any systematized transmission indicating a possible intelligent origin must be investigated. I will hear it.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and InterfaceDeath.net.
This is an APAC studio presentation.
Hi, I'm Barry, owner-operator of Barry's Barometer Barn. Lately, I bet you've been lying awake at night asking yourself, how many barometers do I really need? Well, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we think you need more than one. Otherwise, we're gonna go out of business. Remember, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we don't know the meaning of high-pressure sales. Come on, folks, buy another barometer. I'm trying to put my kids through college, I've got a family to support, and a secret mistress who isn't cheap.
Visit Barry's Barometer Barn, 000 Storm Drive. Come on, folks, buy a barometer. I'm Barry's older brother, Larry, and every time one of you people walk past the store without coming in, Barry beats me.
This has been a presentation from Tim Morgan's APAC Studio. For more almost professional amateur comic studio content, visit the APAC YouTube channel. Search APAC 2002. That's APAC 2002 on YouTube.
When Alex Gardner is asleep, he has an extraordinary gift. The government wants it, the scientists want it, but to keep it may cost him his life. It might be better if Alex didn't sleep at all, but he cannot resist entering the dreamscape. Can you? See Dreamscape in the West End and all over London now. Certificate 15. It takes an extraordinary adventurer to enter the dreamscape.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Heat 'em up. Do, re, he gone.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID OOJBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guest is Coleman Luck and his son Cole Luck III. They are the producers of Patterns of Supernatural Phenomenon. You can find their YouTube channel at Thorncrown Studios. Lots of different topics. If you're just tuning in, it's towards the end of the show, so you missed a lot. But if you're tuning in, these guys have a lot of different topics. You got to check out their YouTube channel. The phone lines are now. Let me get it open for you guys. If you have anything you want to cover tonight, you saw all those different topics tonight we could talk about. We only got a little time, but call in, join the conversations with our guests tonight, Coleman Luck and Cole Luck III. But let's go ahead and get back to our guests. Thank you guys for hanging in here for this last half hour of the show. We've been talking a lot of you guys have so many topics like on your channel. There's so many things like, what do we want to, like, so many things I could get into. Black-Eyed Kids, Council of Nine, like, oh my God. Like all these topics. That's why I call the show Paranormal Soup, because we go on all these different topics. But what fascinates you guys? I mean, I know as the Christian research that you guys do is amazing. But what are some of these topics that you think are in this new season you come out that fascinated you the most?
Well, I mean, there's so many. Basically, people. It's a full school of thought with YouTube channels, and maybe this isn't why we're very big, but we basically go with what interests us at the moment. Like what is really particularly fascinating for us. For me, it's been archaeological topics, and for Dad, it's been some of the alien abduction ones. But I'm not sure really what kind of draws us to these things. Like you're working on
right now. I'm working on an episode based upon Santa Muerte.
That'd be
yeah.
This is a really.
It's going to be a scary one.
It's a very disturbing concept. The idea that there are people, millions of people. It is the fastest growing religion, in the Western Hemisphere right now, from what I understand.
I've had guests on that believe in it.
Have you?
I believe I have.
Yeah, worshiping death, and they pray to death, and they ask death to provide what they need, and they get their prayers answered in many cases. So we're going to do an episode on that, and I look at it and I say, this is a religion that is centered on poor people. It's something that is a temptation for them because they have so little. They're in so much trouble.
Well, it
Many
came
of
out
them
of the slave. It came out of slavery.
came out of slavery. It also, there are those who believe that it, is the basis for that particular deity is straight out of the Aztec religion, the ancient Aztec religion.
Right.
But whatever it is, these are people who are believing in it, and they've put their faith in it. They make sacrifices to it, and they make requests of this deity. And many times, as I say, they get their prayers answered. And the thing that attracts them so much to it, whether you're drug dealers or just a poor person, it's totally non-judgmental. This deity doesn't care what kind of a life you've led. If you want to kill somebody, well, make your request of Santa Muerte. If you want love in your life, make the request. And it doesn't make any difference, what you've done or what you believe, because death it comes for everybody. So there's no judgment about it.
Yeah. So, another
do what
one,
you thy will, right?
Yeah, exactly. Another one that we're interested in, that we got interested in as an old family story, is crisis apparitions. My mom's mother, my grandmother, she was away from her mother, so my great grandmother was passing away, and she appeared to my grandmother. She was hundreds of miles away, dying, and my grandmother was the only daughter that couldn't be there. And she appeared, said, "Listen, I knew you couldn't be here when I was passing away. I just wanted to let you know that I love you." And then she was gone. And then a minute later, the phone rang, and she got news that her mother had passed. So it's one of those family stories. So we look at that and go, oh, we believe that. We believe in that kind of thing. So we're looking. It's that kind of
Those
motivation.
are my favorite. Those are my favorite stories. Like being in the paranormal, I get a lot of people tell me, and I always say this on the show all the time, but they tell me their stories, and a lot of them, I don't know if we call it crisis or whatever, but it's a passing of a loved one. Yeah. How they've come to them in that moment. I've had that experience. I saw my grandmother after she passed the day of her wake. And I've had a lot of, and when people share this with you, a lot of times when they share it with me, they've not told anybody about it before. They feel like they're open enough to tell them about this because they've not had any weirdness. Otherwise, this experience happened because somebody passed away and came to them. And I feel so honored when somebody shares that experience, because to me, that's one of your closest connections to God in that moment. Because I've felt that.
Yeah, so that's one of those things that that we're interested in because of that family story. That we believe we know that she was not lying about that.
Right.
So there's other things that we've run across, like the Nine, where we've read Peter Levenda's book a while back, and then I ran into them when I was looking into the Enneagram and Esalen. And then we've run into them a few more times over the past year, and we kind of thought, okay, you know what, this is getting a little weird. So we're going to follow that weirdness and tug on that thread and see where it takes us. So
I'd be interested to see where that thread leads. That's what they said. Gene Roddenberry was involved in some kind of group that.
Yeah, we've researched into that, and that's questionable.
Yeah,
that's what I've thought about it when I researched into it. It's like, first time I heard it was Ancient Aliens, so I started researching it, and it's like, it's pretty loose extrapolation for them to make on that.
We found some transcripts, but he certainly doesn't. It certainly looks. This was numbers of years after after the original Star Trek series was canceled. So it doesn't look like this had anything to do.
Right,
with
that's
Star
what
Trek.
I saw. That's I said that's Ancient Aliens for you. I love the stuff they cover, but boy, do they! It's Hollywood. I'm saying it's typical. Yeah. That doesn't help with History Channel right now.
Yeah, I'm sick of hearing from ancient alien theorists.
Do they ever say no?
I am one. I am an ancient alien theorist. I am an ancient alien theorist to myself, true at heart. But I disagree with Ancient Aliens on a lot of things that they do.
I mean, I actually love that show in a lot of ways.
Me too.
Because
me
the
and my wife do
archaeology is
too.
great. And then they'll give you a good solid 10 minutes of real archaeology that's actually true, and then they'll just say something. An ancient alien theorist
must be aliens.
Must be aliens.
Just
Yeah, I know. It's a Hollywood thing. See, now, me, I am an ancient alien theorist. I read Eric von Daniken's book when I was just a kid.
Me too.
So they're talking my thing, but I'll catch stuff like that. Like I said, I went and researched it after I heard it because I'm a big Trekkie. I'm like, that seems like they really stretched this one. I don't think that's
yeah, we looked hard into that.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
no, when I went to school for archaeology, I picked one at the time, one of two schools that had an undergraduate degree in archaeology. So I was going to be an archaeologist. But the thing is, when I got there, I didn't know the difference between ancient alien theory, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and the actual real archaeology. I didn't, as a 17-year-old in my freshman year, I didn't understand there was a difference. So when I raised my hand in class to ask a question about Velikovsky's dating of the Egyptian timeline for the Exodus, I had a professor just lose it.
Oh, I bet you did.
Scream at me. And then, just like wrecked me in front of the whole class. And that really began what was a problematic relationship with archaeology for me, because I was like, okay, well,
I've had a great guest, Dr. Heather Lynn, on a couple times as an archaeologist, and she hasn't gained any fanfare for her perspective or investigations that are asking questions, because archaeology is universities and people have grants and they don't want to lose their credibility. They're the ones holding the keys to the kingdom there for knowledge.
Yeah.
And if you're going to destroy their career with your new theory or your new research or whatever, make sure that doesn't happen.
And I've been in contact with a number of actual archaeologists and read a lot. And the biggest thing I see is that they've forgotten what it was that got them interested. And you know what? It was In Search Of. It was Raiders of the Lost Ark. It was those Easter Island specials.
I wanted to be an archaeologist when I was a little kid because of Indiana Jones. I'll say it right now, man.
Now they just scream about how Atlantis is racist. It's just, come on, guys. Anyway, I could rant about that for a long time.
Oh my God,
archaeologists. Jesus. I followed a bunch of them on Twitter, and basically they all just like tweeting about their cats and bitching about ancient aliens.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Them going off on that. Ancient Aliens doesn't help themselves sometimes on that, but But at the same time, the archaeology should be ashamed of itself because it's totally ignored. I mean, did you see the Joe Rogan Swass, or his name Ali Swass interview recently?
I've met Zawi.
It went really bad. Zawi Swass. It went really badly.
He's not a nice man.
No, it came across.
And I don't think he's a very good scholar. So
no, it came across very clearly on Joe Rogan, who this is Joe Rogan, okay, not a scholar himself, right?
Yeah.
But you could see him trying to work with Swass to have what I respect about Joe Rogan, I will say, is he tries to at least he has conversations with people, and that's what's important. So I have people like, well, you heard that on Joe Rogan, who cares? He's a I agree with you. The guy's a total goofball. But he has conversations, so shut the F up. You know what I'm saying? That's what we need. We need to have real conversations. But so here he is with Swass trying to have this conversation. It was just not happening. You could see
he's just not someone who's going to have that conversation or have any conversation.
Well, I give the information to my scientists. They know.
He's a politician, really, too.
Right. So, and he shut down Graham Hancock. He shut down anybody trying to actually do real research. And that's human history. It's not you're just not blocking people out from protecting Egyptian culture there, buddy. This is human history. We all inquiring minds want to know. So take your arrogant ass and go somewhere else.
Yeah, and you've got great works like the New Dawn of Everything by Wengrow and Graeber, the late David Graeber, and which are just as iconoclastic pieces of work, where they take a sledgehammer to a lot of, this kind of thing, but, they do it within the confines of their own academia, and, they're much more respected. So, I love Graham Hancock a lot. I think I've got every book he's ever written. So this kind of stuff really
let him into Egypt. Let him go investigate.
Yeah, let's find out what's underneath that pyramid.
Right. Let's put our money where our mouth is, Swass. Where you see your damn name. Let's put our money where our mouth. Like somebody hold him to it. That's what I'm saying.
his job is to block things, basically.
Right. But I also think there's a huge intent on covering up human history like this. It goes way beyond him. Like there
Well, of course.
you know,
I mean, the
right?
flood
I mean,
wiped out. I think the flood, the biblical flood, wiped out. This giants and terrible things. Perhaps an advanced civilization, quite possibly.
have you guys talked to L.A. Marzulli? Have you had him on or talked to him?
We don't know him.
I had him on just once, very briefly. He only could do an hour, but he talked about the Kandahar giant and that story.
Yeah, we have people that were there then, and that's not true.
That's what I've heard. It's been up and down with this. I got fans that are part of the original orientation of that when it came on another friend's show when they started talking about this. But that's like, did that happen?
I mean,
did it?
It's hard. I mean, with the source that we have, it's really hard for us to believe that one. Now, I certainly believe in giants, and and we've talked about doing Bigfoot at some point.
Right,
but,
that's a conversation to have on this, especially from a biblical perspective about
giants are biblical. They're a biblical thing, and it certainly is possible that they're in some manner still around.
They're more than biblical. They're. I mean, you can go back past before the Bible, before all that.
Oh yeah, every culture in the world, like
culture.
Dragons, like flood myths.
Yep, exactly.
At a certain point, you got to sit there and go, something's going on here. We don't all just make up the same stories.
Right, that's the thing. I mean, you can find the same engraved carvings of the same kind of beings in 3 different cultures separated all over the world. I can find multiple examples of that. Yeah. That's the crap that archaeology's ignored for a century or more.
Yep.
That's
really
to me, that's just ridiculous.
It's also the fun part of archaeology that gets kids interested in it. And then when you need that kid to think he can find the Ark of the Covenant, so you can get him in and teach him how to look at pottery shards for 20 years.
Yeah. And fight to get a research grant to pay your bills.
Yeah, exactly. If you're sitting there, crapping on every fantasy, then you're not going to get the next generation of adventurers. You're going to get the next generation of data statisticians.
Yeah. Yeah, but the thing is, these mysteries are there, and for a long time, they've just ignored it. I'm sorry, they've ignored it. They ignored the question. They don't want to talk about it. This is the narrative. This is the history. No questions.
Yeah,
that's what we've been dealt with for the last, 100 years of archaeology and universities and perceived human history, which, some of these things have to be rewritten by now.
Yeah, this includes UFOs. People not want. It's only the past the 10 years that we've even begun to have real conversations on higher levels about this. Forever. People didn't tell stories about seeing UFOs because you were just going to be written off as crazy.
Right.
So what you have is a materialist worldview.
Yes.
That is in control of almost everything around us in this culture, in our culture. And, that materialist worldview is cracking.
It's even in the church. I mean, like we talked about with Guyla.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what you have are people who are married to the material, and they are afraid of dealing with anything that is beyond that. And that's something that, of course, we crash into frequently.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're going to provide you your own heaven. Have you not seen that? That's what they want to do, too. That's the whole transhumanist thing, too. It's not only that. We can upload you to a virtual heaven. They did a show called Upload on that. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
It actually was pretty funny. But this whole idea, we want to, not only do we want to connect each other with AI, I see, we're in the next, by 2035, humans could live forever. Rich humans.
Yeah, seriously.
Right?
That's right.
But
the rest of us can't get our medication.
Those pills are $1,000 a pill. You got to take 20 of them each day.
In this, when I see those articles, I'm like, I want you to go walk. Whoever wrote this article, I want to smack you upside the head, and I want to take you to McDonald's and Walmart, and go. Now say that again, because you're killing us. You're not trying to make us live forever.
I mean,
take a look around.
They can't even come up with a reasonable, treatment for hair loss. That's
right.
That's affordable. You think you got to pay? It's unbelievable. Life extension, it's not going to happen.
Well, what I always joked about is that people that believe that the government not, I shouldn't say the government, because the government is a consistent of people that we voted for, we think are going to be there to represent us, do good things. It's the corruption in our governments, some massive entity, the Illuminati. I don't know who. Whoever's controlling the forces, they think population control, right? They're going to reduce the population, like the Georgia Guidestones, right? Reduce the population. I said that will happen. That could happen. That if they're going to do that, that will happen the day they get the robots to replace us. And here we are. If you see it, that's why I talk about it on the show all the time. I show the AI. I show all the new in the robotics. Every day it's advancing farther and farther. You need soldiers. We're going to have robots to kill each other. Everybody else's robots, right? Who need? The pilots are going to be replaced. They're not going to be. I see now the new thing the DoD's got is a pilot is basically one person with like 6 drone ships around them. And the pilot flies with them. And heck, we might not even need the pilot. We'll just let it all go out. Skynet, hey, right. They never watched Terminator 2, I guess, or Terminator 1 or any of those. I'm just saying we are approaching that age now. We're here where they can replace us. They don't need what they talk about the tariffs and bringing the factories back here and be like, we don't have the workers aren't skilled here. They don't need us to be skilled. They don't need us to be the workers. It's all becoming automated. They have the dark factories in China where they don't even turn on the lights because there's no humans there.
Well, I'm going to tell you one thing that I've learned about what I think are the elites is that there are different factions of them, and they hate each other. So we've got that going for us for a good long time.
I agree.
There's many different factions of elites,
yes.
And none of them can stand the rest of them. They all want to be the top dog. They're never going to let the other ones get their way. There's competing evil entities. Think of it as like the houses of Satan and Game of Thrones.
That's perfect. No, that's a perfect example. Game of Thrones and the houses of fighting.
Oh, there is one more thing. They're incompetent. That is the biggest thing that I see. Also, besides the fact that they hate each other, look around. I don't see any, real order in terms of
I don't believe in
control.
Right, that's the thing. I've never believed there's the Illuminati and they control everything.
No, I believe in them. I believe
but that they actually are that capable. They're fighting all the time. There's not a coherent group.
Well, they want to be to rule the ashes, and we have like the UN up here, and it trickles down. You have these different organs and organizations, and the higher up you are, the more you know. But
it's a bunch of greedy assholes fighting over us and our enslavement. Basically.
Well, they're fighting over each
other. Who's going to be
power?
Right. Well, they're fighting over who's going to get to be in control.
Yeah. And
that's what it is.
I don't think they're very smart. I don't think they're going to, they're really going to be able to ever pull it off. Not to any degree. I have very little confidence in the elites, of being able to actually complete any sort of serious conspiratorial plan. Of course, if I get in a car accident tomorrow, I'm agree.
Of course, then you come back into the issue of perfect possession.
Yeah.
When you consider their end game, it's like they're not that bright.
Well, the perfect possession part's the part we've got. I've gotten to down that rabbit hole. My favorite movie is hold on.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
They live.
I'm all out of bubble. Yeah. What movie? What was that quote from again?
They Live, John Carpenter.
Oh, They Live.
That's
Roddy Piper.
Yeah. And you get why I'm mentioning that movie, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because what is that? Right?
It's basically an elite. Yeah, absolutely. And having your vision ripped, cleared up so you can see that kind of thing. It's a great film. And I think really when you begin to seek and follow Jesus, I think that's the kind of glasses that go on. And I don't mean just like becoming a Christian and going to church and singing your pop, Christian music and reading your Bible. I'm talking about deep, meditation, deep following Jesus. You begin to be able to see the world that way. And that's when you see that, the people are what God loves.
But that comes in absolutely as you are seriously meditating and as you are truly become a student of the Word of God.
Yes, absolutely.
The Bible is absolutely critical.
So we do think this is real.
Yes.
all the things that you're saying, the perceptions they live, that's all real. But the war is only going to be won by those who follow Jesus. And the only way to become an effective fighter in helping free people from that slavery is through Jesus Christ.
Absolutely.
For me, like I said, I've read the New Testament. I'm a big fan of Jesus Christ in the New Testament. What I'm not a big fan of and never been is the Old Testament.
Now, what does a big fan mean? Is that like,
I like the idea of sitting down with prostitutes and thieves and having a conversation and not judging and wanting to just stone, or telling somebody, you be the first to pick up a stone. Or going in to tell the Pharisees, how dare you in the temple of God be ripping people off? He was a rebel. He's my kind of guy. What I don't care for is the Old Testament. I am, a jealous God. It's not what I experienced. And I told you guys, I go by what I experienced. I feel I experienced God. I was saved. And the God I experienced was the deepest compassionate love I've ever felt from anything or anyone. And I've never felt more safe or protected in that moment than in any time. And I am not a perfect being. I'm not a perfect being. I committed many sins before that moment and still have after.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So I would recommend doing a little more study of the Old Testament, to understand a little more depth than what you are currently understanding.
Oh, I've gotten pretty in depth with it. I have my issues. You have my reasons. That's why I don't call myself a Christian, because I don't follow the traditional Christian guideline of Old Testament to New Testament. That's what we have conversations. You guys have your beliefs. I have mine. But I think we're both on the same journey. We're both looking to try to understand this world around us and our connection to God and how that all involves around us with all these mysteries and the phenomenon that we see. For me to pretend to I know for sure my ideas are the right ones, it goes against how I'm wired. Because I don't believe I know crap over you or anybody knows anything over me. We're all just living this world and trying to figure it out. And I am no one to tell anybody how to believe.
Yeah. Well, for us, and God is like that too. He doesn't tell you how to believe.
Right.
For us, it's a matter of faith. It's a matter of something we've experienced throughout our lives. The reality of Jesus Christ in our life is something that we can testify to. That's the truth that we can tell you about. But it's until you experience that reality yourself, it's almost impossible to explain.
And the thing is that what we're dealing with, there's an old legal term called good and sufficient evidence. And and I don't believe in blind faith. What I believe in is examining good and sufficient evidence to determine whether it is that or not.
Yeah.
And when you discover it, then it challenges you to make decisions that are uncomfortable.
Yeah. And that kind of rigor is the same approach we use in our show.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it. I love your guys' channel. I love the content that you guys are doing. I like the topics you guys are covering. You guys got to keep doing it. And that's why I want people to hear about your channel. We got to have different, people have to open themselves up to different perspectives. I listen to you guys. I listen to people, that are very new agey compared to you guys, right? I have them on the show. I listen to everybody.
We have people that come on and say, I don't agree with a single thing you say, but I love your stories.
Yeah. I mean, but that's how you reach people. Keep telling your stories. That's what it is. You learn. To me, I'm learning every day my relationship with God. And I told you guys when we talked before we did the show, my learning, my best way is through my family, through my children, through my wife. That's where I find my best relationship. My time with God is there. That's what God put me on this earth for, I feel. Amen. Not this show, not that, is them and the family and the time we have together. Those relationships. That is what is most important. Whoever is in your life that you consider, and they don't have to be blood. Whoever you consider important to you, your family, your life, look at it as a gift the time you have with anybody you care about. Look at it as a gift from God and the time you have with them.
Well, we want to thank you for having us on the show.
Yes,
we're going to be praying for you and for the blessing of your life, and for Jesus to make himself fully known and completely known to you.
Absolutely.
Jesus, I'll tell you what, I'm down with Jesus. He's got to come and talk to me about the Old Testament. You guys talked to Paul Anthony Wallace, right? We get all of that. That's a whole other show topic night. But I love you guys. I love what you're doing. Keep doing it and keep me updated. I'd love to hear what happens when you start messing around with that VO.
I'll keep you in the loop.
Are you doing the $250 a month for that? That's the premium.
No. You get for one month free sign up. So for that,
Okay.
I'm gonna get, and you get 100 generations. I should be able to tell what it can do within that time.
I'm interested. I would love to hear.
Yeah,
you guys should do a whole video on that.
People have said that the outtakes from the AI alone would be hilarious.
Well, thank you guys. Yeah, thank you so much for being on the show. Like I said, I can't wait to see what you guys have with your season 3. Keep up the great work. Keep in touch, okay? Keep in touch with me, okay?
Thank you. Will. Thank you, Jason. We really appreciate being on here.
We do.
It was awesome to have you guys. That's it for the show. Next Sunday, like I said, we changed perspectives. Next Sunday is going to be a channeler. We're going to be talking to her and her the alien she's channeling. Her name's Jessie Herman, and I can't pronounce the alien's name that she's channeling. But we're going to have her on next Sunday. Same bat time, same bat channel, 10 p.m. Central, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific time. You're out there on the West Coast there. Check us out. At least it's earlier for you. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. Don't forget, you can become a channel member. We are going to do some more stuff this summer for our channel members for YouTube and our Patreons. We have exclusive content for them. But Sunday nights is always free for you guys, always live. Archived there, right in the live section of our channel on YouTube. You can find all the past episodes. We've been doing it for 10 years. Come join us. Join us every Sunday night, guys. I'd love to see you. Thank you, Cole. Thank you, Coleman. Thank you, Jamie. Everybody, have a great night. See you next week.
Good night.